think it's time. I think it's time to get started, folks. What do you think? It's 4 past the start time, and I think it's time to get started. And it's been a while since we did an audio-only show, so let me get started with the official opening sound of Thursday. Oh, I'm excited. I haven't done an audio one in a while. Welcome everyone. Let's get this started. Woo! Welcome everyone to ThursdAI, December 26th. My name is Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist with Weights and Biases. I'm also your host for today. Welcome to the last show of ThursdAI this year. The last show in 2024. I'm very excited about this one because we also have some incredible open source breaking news as we start the show just from this morning, as I always love breaking news, as you guys know. We also have my co-host here with me, Wolfram, Raven Wolf. Wolfram, say welcome to the folks.
Hello, everyone. Hope you had a great Xmas or whatever you celebrate, if you celebrate.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone. Let's pause this music. Merry Christmas, everyone. Whoever celebrates Chrismukkah this year, also on the same day, Hanukkah and Christmas. So for those of you who do this, today's, at least for me, where I am, is the second candle. I also want to acknowledge that other co-hosts here, Weave from Weights and Biases. Thank you, Weights and Biases, for letting me host the show for this whole year. This is the second year we're doing this. Actually, second anniversary is coming up in March. So folks who are here with us in the space, the square, very colorful Weave handle here, please go give that one a follow. This is the reason why the show still exists here on Space and on X. Everywhere else. I think we're also streaming everywhere else. However, today our format is audio only. No visual representations. Folks who have been sitting in spaces all this time and are used to this format, we're in audio only. So if you're listening to us live or tuning in from the car, on your way to work next week or next year or even, so if you're listening to us from the future, welcome to ThursdAI. We're excited to have you. We're going to have multiple friends, hopefully from the show, jump on and tell us about kind of what they found exciting this year. Actually, I think that I'm very open to just opening up at the end of this episode and just have a conversation with a bunch of folks as well. Let me invite a friend of mine here. I'm inviting another friend of mine here and another friend of mine here. I'm just going to invite a bunch of friends because this is the last year celebration, basically, to the stage. And I want to open up with just saying this. It's been an incredible year for AI. Incredible year. I've been doing, this is like the second year I'm doing this. I've re-listened to the last year's recap show. I don't know if you guys natively understand this, but the acceleration we're on is batshit insane. It's absolutely batshit insane. Just like comparing to last year is really, really, really hard. And I also went and recapped kind of our predictions from last year, which we'll do at kind of also the second part of the show. It's really hard to also try to predict what's going to happen in next year. The predictions the folks did on the show, and mind you, the folks who tune to the show are folks who know everything that has to be known from week to week, right? So like folks who tune to ThursdAI want to know the latest and greatest, the cutting edge, the bleeding edge of open source, etc. The predictions the folks made on the show were so small compared to what we got. Eventually, it was really funny, and so yeah, it's been an incredibly eventful year in AI, and so we're going to hopefully try to recap that as much as one can recap and do all of this in the span of 1 hour. And so all of this to come. I will just remind you that the Weights and Biases is already paying and sponsoring the show, so you don't have to pay. Like this is a free show. But if you do want to help and support the show, the best way to do is reshare our stream. So like our airwaves is going to go around the world as much as possible. So if you're listening to us live, go down to the bottom right of where there's comments there, participate in the show, give us comments as we go along. So we'll do a conversation. We share the actual kind of show link, the space link, so that people will find it, join our wherever we are. But also the show is recorded and then edited and then reposted on ThursdAI.news and everywhere where you get your podcasts. It would be dope if you send an episode as a, I don't know, New Year's present to your friends who are about to get into AI and want to know about anything. Yeah, just send them. If you find it interesting, if you find it insightful, just send them. And so with that, I think it's about to get started. Also, I want to say hi to my friend Nistan here. What's up, Nistan?
Oh. Okay. Hey, what's up?
I actually found that really funny from Sam Altman, that one. Yeah, ho. How's your Christmas, man? Or do you guys not celebrate Christmas in Hanukkah or in Canada? Or is that like a month before? I don't remember.
No, it depends. Like a few years ago, the girl I brought home was Jewish, but then some years ago was Christian, so my parents actually did put up a Christmas tree.
Oh, nice. So it's contextual. It's contextual. Yes. I love it. All right, folks. So
they're both atheists.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the rituals. That's what I always say. I lit up candles yesterday. All right, folks. So I think that with this, I think we have a quorum to get started. But again, we'll have more folks joining us throughout the conversation. Again, big show. What we do usually is this kind of TLDR format. We run through everything that we have to talk about. I did not expect to have much news for the last week of the year. Folks are on Christmas vacation. OpenAI ended with their 12 days of whatever presents. Google's folks are on vacation. They finished with their release cycle, etc. I did not expect to have much news, but we do have them. So let's run to the TLDR section of everything that we will have to talk about. Then we're going to actually talk about them. And then in the second part of the show, we're going to try to do a TLDR for the whole year. I don't know. We'll do a yearly recap of, at least we'll try to run and see what are the big things that happened this year. Because again, as we run from week to week, it's really hard to it's really easy to lose sight of the big picture of just how much changed this year, right? So we're going to try to do a yearly recap. We'll see. And folks, Nistan, Wolfram, I sent you a link so you can do this with me. So hopefully you have this link open with you, so we all can surround ourselves and run through this properly, and you guys can help me with it. Right. So let's do a TLDR. Let's do a TLDR of everything that we have for this last week of 2024, which is a crazy last week. So I usually do it like this, right? This is it. This is the TLDR of the last week of AI news for 2024, December 26, 2024. This is everything that we're going to talk about on the show. We're going to start with open source, where we have huge breaking news. Breaking news from open source. Well, we have two breaking news, actually. We have two breaking news. First of all, our friends from Qwen decided to leave us a Christmas present in the form of Qwen QVQ. If you guys remember Qwen Quill, which is spelled QWQ, that was a 30 billion something parameter model. This one is Qwen QVQ. It's a visual 72 billion parameter visual reasoning model from Qwen. As far as we know, this is the first and maybe only open source visual reasoning model. This is I think it's based on Qwen Vision 72B. Basically, it's a vision reasoning model. It's pretty cool. Wolfram, I know you've tested this out, so we're going to chat about this one. It was open source, I believe, also with some Apache license. We're going to chat about this one. It's awesome. Maybe we'll see if our friends from Qwen can make it. Maybe it's late. So that was cool. That was also dropped this week. We also saw Cog Agent 9B drop recently. Cog Agent was recently one of the better tools to actually control your machine from screenshots. So that beats Claude computer use on some tasks. So we're going to briefly mention that as well. And then Goodfire released Ember, which is a mechanistic interpretation, Mechinterp API. So basically, if you guys remember Golden Gate Claude, it's that for Llama, and basically everybody can find features. I really want to chat about this. That I find super cool. The work itself is not open source, but the fact that they are able to do that, whatever Anthropic did for Golden Gate Claude, and find those features and clamp those features, and you can actually play with them yourself, I find that super, super cool. So I want to talk about Ember's mechanistic interpretation API. And the biggest news in open source dropped yesterday and honestly today, this morning. DeepSeek, the Whale Bros, aka Whale Bros from China, released DeepSeek version 3 in preview. It's a massive, massive 658, yeah, I'm going to say this slowly again, 658 billion parameter model, MOE, with a whopping 256 expert. I believe that like 8 experts are like activated at each pass with like 1 share, so like 9 experts activated in each pass, but like 256 experts overall. It's a massive MOE that requires, I think, 8 H200s to run or something crazy like this. And this open source, I really want to hit the breaking news button. I'm probably going to use it later. This massive open source dethrones Claude 3.5 on coding on multiple benchmarks. This is basically Claude at home. Well, not at home because nobody can run this. But this is massive news, folks. This is insane news from yesterday and today. Open source has caught up technically to GPT-4, to Gemini, to Claude, and it costs $6 million. That's what we know. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And then we definitely want to dive into this as much as possible in the open source. We're going to dedicate a good chunk of the show today because this is what it's all about. So great releases from open source this week. Then we're gonna skip to big companies and APIs, where if you guys follow the show, you probably know about OpenAI's O3. We concluded the last ThursdAI with getting vision. I believe this was the last thing that we got on Thursday last week. We got vision, and then we got tool use as well, I believe, on last Thursday. And then on Friday, on the last day of the 12 days of releases of OpenAI, they dropped a bomb on everyone. And basically, this bomb was called AGI ? Basically, OpenAI decided to come on the live stream. Sam Altman came and then said, hey, we are releasing early evaluations of this new model we call O3 and O3 Mini. And those evaluations, just like, at least for my feed and probably many folks who are tuning to the show feeds, just broke our collective brains completely because nobody expected Greg Comrade, also from the show, by the way, the president from ARC AGI, to show up and say, hey, this model basically won ARC AGI prize at, I want to say 75%. I don't remember the exact one. I have the eval. At 87.5% on ARC AGI semi-private evaluation, including a insane 20. Anyway, we're gonna get into the evals. I don't want to get too excited, but basically O3, the new reasoning model, which is the continuation from O1, from OpenAI, was revealed with evaluations that are absolutely insane, which got many people started thinking about whether or not this is AGI. We already had a show about O3. Actually, on Friday, we live reacted on Friday. We recorded the show, live reacted. Since then, we also saw everybody kind of comment on what O3 means, and we saw all of this. So definitely, we need to talk about O3 because it's absolutely insane. Also, because you go to like I don't know, I posted a tweet about this that went kind of like crazy. You go to a bagel shop, you eat a lox bagel, and people don't know that O3 was released or like getting discussed, and AGI is almost here, and they just eat their lox bagel. So definitely, we're going to talk about O3. Also, there's small news from XAI. The folks who have us promised Grok 3 by end of this year. Maybe today. I doubt it, though. Probably not this week. We'll see. But XAI raised another $6 billion. Another. So they already raised the $6 billion round a while ago. So this is another $6 billion to the coffers of XAI. They're well on their way to 200,000 H200s, which is going to be, they already have the biggest supercluster in the world. So this is going to be even more massive. So absolutely insane, and we're going to maybe talk about Grok and their plans. And also, there's a small recap of Google's releases, but nothing came from Google this week. The folks at Google are on a well-deserved break, and hopefully nothing comes today as well. We have plenty to talk about. In this week's Buzz, super quick, we have 2 events coming up in January that I want to tell you about so that you start to get planning. In the second week of January, we have one San Francisco event and one Seattle event. I'm going to be in both of them. I'm very excited. And we also have a new course coming up in Eval's course and participation from Paige Bailey, the great Paige Bailey from Deverell from Google, and Graham Newbig from All Hands AI, and we have an evals course and it's free to sign up, and I'm going to add this link and hopefully you guys will join our free evals course. It's going to be awesome. I already saw some previews and definitely awesome, and basically all about evaluations, including our events as well. In vision and video, small potatoes, but Kling got an update, the model that competes or tries to compete with, you know, now VO2 and Sora and Julio, yeah, and there's so many video models I can't remember them all, but Kling got a 1.6 update that seems pretty cool. In the voice and audio category, we also have some very interesting news. Hume, the company that released kind of a emotive voice previously, released Octave, or at least announced Octave. I haven't seen a release, but they say it's a speech language model, which is a new term for me, but they claim it's a 3 billion parameter speech language model, and it has emerging capabilities like on-the-fly personalization and like personality creation. It has all the characteristics of like advanced voice model. It can like mimic the speaker's voice, personality, and it can copy your voice on the fly almost. It's pretty cool. It sounds pretty decent. And it's 3 billion parameters, just 3 billion parameters, not open source though. In the tools area, the last thing I want to call out is my dear friends from Open Router added web search grounding, which is pretty cool. So every model on Open Router, which is pretty much every model, you can now go and add web grounding via EXA, and that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty much it of the news that we're going to talk about, but also we have last year's prediction and timeline in year in review. And the last thing this is the last thing that I want to kind of chat about. So this is TLDR, and now Nisten and Wolfram, I know that I promised you a link, so let me just send you a link so we're all going to be on the same page, and let's get started. Anything that I missed, by the way, Wolfram and Nisten, while I was like running and gunning super quick?
I think that covers it. Didn't think of any you missed.
Yeah, nothing huge besides DeepSeek and O3. I think those are the main things that we need to cover. Folks in the audience, by the way, listening in, any huge thing that I've missed from this week? Somebody asked what was the 3 billion parameter model with personalization? That was Hume's Octave or Octave. And yeah, we're gonna run through all of them again. This is only the TLDR. Nissan, go ahead.
Also, just really quick, I think 2 weeks ago, or maybe I wasn't on, we missed the update that DeepSeek 2.5 pushed, which was like the 12.10 update. Again, they messed up their version numbers, but that 12.10 was actually kind of significant in terms of benchmarks. Like it was bumping everything up by like 5 or something %. And I tried it from Bertowski's, I think he's in the audience. He makes the quantizations for it. So just search BARTOW SKI, and then DeepSeek, and then get whatever is the latest there, the 12.10, 1 to 10. And I tried that one, and it was very, very good. So I think we missed that slight update that DeepSeek pushed to 12.5, and that was only 2 weeks ago. If you go on Hugging Face right now on DeepSeek's, not version 3, version 2.5, it's only like 14 days old. But that one you can actually run even on a CPU, and it was very, very good. Anyway, I tried it; it was good.
Yep. But this was before the version 3, so definitely we're gonna chat about version 3. I think version 3 already got to like the Explore tab, at least on my end for X. So let's talk about open source, folks. I think this is the next thing. Let's talk about open source AI. Open source AI, let's get it started. Let's get it started with open source AI, and I think we have smallish potatoes. Let's run through them super quick until we get to the main course. I think this is the way that I now love to do things. I want to start with Cog Agent 9B. And as I used to do, I'm going to add the stuff that I'm talking about to the top of the stage. Cog Agent was released, by the way, a while ago. So this is an updated version of Cog Agent. This is the 2024-1220, a bilingual GUI agent built on GLM. We talked about GLM for a while. This is a 9 billion parameter model of GLM. This is a visual language model that this is an agent that built on top of this visual language model that achieves a 85.4% on the screen spot evaluation compared to Claude Sonnet 83%. This is state of the art model use of your computer based on just image perception. So very high resolution input and achieves very high scores. I think state of the art scores as far as I'm looking at from Cog Agent. Very, very impressive. I haven't been able to run this, but I know that it's already implemented in a specific, I believe, Chinese tool. I wasn't able to register though and sign up for the actual tool and try it out. But the paper that they released was already existing. This seems to just be a new iteration on that kind of like paper and a new model. So same paper as previously, but a new blog with 9 billion parameter model, and the model is on the Hugging Face as well. This one has 8,000 context lengths for memory, so memory for the previous steps as well. And I think the highlight here is the resolution has 1120 by 1120 resolution input. And then it has chain of thought reasoning steps like status and planning and action and operation, very similar to what we saw from computer use from Anthropic. I haven't seen it in the wild though, so all we can do is go by what they released on the project page, but it looks very, very interesting. Nista, you remember Cog VLM, right? We talked about Cog VLM before.
Yeah, I even ran it on my Mac, like the previous one. It actually wasn't that good. Like the resolution issue was still an issue, and because what happens with visual language models is they're only trained on squares or on rectangles, like on a certain resolution. So even if you give it your widescreen or ultra widescreen computer, it's going to get squished down to that, and then the model has to guess just based on that. So I don't know if they've fixed that on this, because the previous one was not that good, but their model, like the LLM side, tend to be very, very, very good. So 1120 by 1120 is a significant upgrade, and yeah, I'm going to try it out. Apparently it's they also have a Cog Agent 18B, which is like an 11B language model and a 7B thing. So it's getting up there. Like you're gonna need either a 3090, a 24 gig. You're gonna need 24 gigs of VRAM.
Yep. So this one is a 9 billion parameter, and this one. So apparently there's a demo app as well. I missed it. So GLMPC is the app that I missed. That's a Chinese app, but there's a Cog Agent demo app on GitHub that you can run on Sequoia. It's a Mac app, and it's a Gradio Mac app that runs the model likely, and you enable screen recording permissions. I would be very careful with this. Specifically, I would be very careful with this. I would encourage folks to be very careful with stuff like Anthropic, computer use. Definitely, that one comes with the Docker. I would be very careful with running something like this on your computer. So very, very carefully. I just got a very funny DM from somebody from Google saying, "Hey, I hear you like breaking news." Haha, not funny, folks, not today. All right, so moving on from the small potatoes in the open source. So this is Cog VLM. Anything else, Wolfram? Are you familiar with these models? Any comment on this, or folks in the audience, are you familiar with Cog VLM? Have you tried the runner? Let us know with Cog Agent. Otherwise, we can move on, I think.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet. So can't comment on that.
Alrighty. Last thing in the TLDR that I forgot, and I think it's worth talking about. It's a little bit outside of the kind of the ThursdAI news type thing, but I got a Christmas toy for my kid. It's an AI Christmas toy, and my post about this is blowing up right now. It's like crazy. Many people have comments about specific toys and AIs and kids, and I actually want to tell you guys the story as well because my kid does not really want the AI part of the story. It's very interesting. Yeah, I'll tell you all about this hopefully at the end of the show, but I'll definitely add this to the show notes. It's very interesting, actually, as somebody whose title is an AI evangelist and whose kids have tried all of the AIs that are possible. This one is very interesting. All right, moving on in the open source. We're still in the open source. Somebody has to maintain order here on ThursdAI. Goodfire Ember is the next thing that I wanted to talk about, and I actually invited them to chat, but I forgot to send them a link, so they're not here. Ember is a new company that they offer mechanistic interpretation. Nista and Wolfram, would you guys want to try to give a definition of mechinterp while I go pull up the link to the audience?
I don't know, Wolfram. But people try to look. At the end of the day, it is just yogurt, right?
I love this analogy. At least once more this year. Yeah, Nista, go ahead. Yogurt analogy. Hey.
Yeah, I say this analogy like 4 times a month, but it's like you're dumping in a bunch of information, and you have these like pools of like digital yogurt, just like bumping the distribution of every token into a certain marinated section of the data, and then you end up with the next token. So it's not like they think and stuff. They just kind of you're just like, yeah, you're just marinating stuff. So when people try to do mechanistic interpretability, it's like they're trying to interpret the mind of the yogurt. And so you can see how that is. It's a little bit hard, right? So in this case, what they did is, or at least what I think mostly they did, because it hasn't all been published, is they trained like 2 or more versions of Llama 3.3, and they have and I think they swap the layers on the fly, and then they just give you a slider. So when you push that slider, some of the layers are uncensored, and you can get there's uncensored models on like it's still we're still a free world, thankfully. So you can get uncensored model. So yeah, so they swap around the layers. So you have 80 layers on Llama 70B, and that slider takes out the original ones and puts it the uncensored ones, and depending on how many it puts, you get a level of it being uncensored. And this is also what people thought that they were doing with the Claude, the Golden Gate Bridge
Claude, yeah.
model. But that was a little bit different, and that was a pretty long paper, actually. But yeah, that was it in this case. So people are attempting to like do some kind of interpretation, but then again, you're trying to mechanize yogurt. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
But it kind of works though. So let me try to sum up and recap like what I got from Goodfire. Goodfire is apparently either one of the first or the first API for open source models like Llama 70B, and I think they have 70B and 8B. Yeah, Llama 3.3 70B and Llama 3.1 8B. I'm looking at their like UI. They have a hosted API where you can decide which features, they call them features, which is kind of collections of activations of model activations that you can clamp down on and have more of or less than. So you can say, I don't want this model to ever say a specific word or a concept, or I don't want this model to swear, or I don't want this model to ever be, I don't know, prompt injected, for example. That's one feature they're like very happy about and they did some research about. So basically trying to understand how the model thinks and then trying to get those understandings into a specific modeling that you can control via this API, which is fairly like very cool. They use sparse autoencoders, SAEs, to extract those features from the model activations. And so these features represent meaningful concepts that emerge from this model's like processing, which is very, very cool. Like we're basically trying to understand like this yogurt's, in instance, like analogy, this yogurt's thinking. And Ember allows the API for controllable behavior. You can adjust on the fly how many of these like parameters or features you can control on the fly, which is super cool. And also on their interface on the platform.goodfire.ui, you can basically play around with them on the fly and kind of control them, like removing them and adding them. So for example, you can have the llama model swear all the time or be like very racist or be not racist at all. And some of the research that they did was very interesting as well. They did some research that talked about how you can create other decision trees, for example, while using these things, or you can up jailbreak resistance by feature activations that like refuse jailbreak resistance or some stuff like this. It's very, very interesting research. And the fact that now it has access like via API and SDK, it's very, very cool. So they have a hosted version of Llama basically that is that its brain is open with the controls that you can control the brain. Basically, this is how I understand this. This is how I explain Ember. Super cool. So if you're into this and you want to play around with Llama, this doesn't require fine-tuning. And you can ask, basically the question that people are asking is, what is the difference between this and something like prompting? You can still prompt this model to like behave in this way. There's some differences, and this is like more native to the model, basically, is from what I understand. Pretty cool. And yeah, this is Goodfire Ember, and I think it's time for us to actually talk about the main thing. I have to use this. This is from today, folks. This is literally from today, so I have to use this breaking news button. We have breaking news from DeepSeek. Not breaking news in the middle of the show, but this is from this morning, so I'm allowed to use this at least once. I did not expect this to be as many releases this Thursday, so here we go, folks. We have breaking news in the open source. AI breaking news. Coming at you only on ThursdAI. Our breaking news for today comes from the most Chad Chinese company called DeepSeek AI, aka Whale Bros, aka Whale Bros. DeepSeek releases the instruct and base version of version 3 of DeepSeek. Version 3 of DeepSeek. DeepSeek has been around for a while. We've talked about DeepSeek a lot. DeepSeek v3 is the biggest leap forward in open source LLMs and AI that we've seen yet. This model is just absolutely incredible. And this model is now open sourced on the Hugging Face. Not that we can download it because it's a massive, massive 671 billion parameters. 671 billion parameters. Just for comparison, the biggest like Llama model that we have in the open source that was dense, that was like 405B. This one is over 500 billion parameters. Like this pushes the boundaries. It's really up there. It's a mixture of experts with 37 billion activated. So that's going to be, let me take a look. That's 200.
Actually, nice.
Yeah, 256 experts. We're gonna get to reactions like super quick. The evaluations are absolutely insane. This model matches This model matches Llama the 405B on multiple places and beats it on several other places like MMLU Redux. This model beats and comes very close to Claude 3.5 Sonnet, the last one. So like 3.6 or whatever, the 3.5 new. So let's look at some evaluations and then let's talk about the model. Wolfram, Nistan, do you guys already looking at some stuff? You want to call out some evals that you found interesting?
I'm looking at their today's announcement right now.
Yeah,
I took a look at dude, it's good. Look, sorry. A lot of people have criticism that it's too big, like 671 billion parameters. That means that to run it in 8-bit quantize. You're going to need 670 gigs of RAM, or any kind of RAM, VRAM, RAM. So you're already like above the limit of what you get with the because with 8 H100s, you end up with 640, well, more like 650 something gigs of RAM. So even if you have a whole rack of 8 H100s, you're not going to be able to run it. So that means you either have to move to H200s, which you really can't get a rack off, or the MI300s if you can get them to run. Same thing with with H200s. But the thing that's important here is that in the end, if you're going to run this at scale, and you're going to serve like a lot of customers with it, the amount of active parameters which like the model is chewing on at the same time is only 37 billion.
Mhm.
The rest are just like hanging there in memory and just being picked dynamically with each layer. So that means it's actually going to be faster than people running Llama 70B overall. It's just the memory is going to be expensive, but to run it itself, the inference is going to be faster. Now, there are some other issues with like KV cache activations for MOEs, but again, the moment you go at some kind of scale, those go away, and this does actually become more beneficial. So again, people are complaining because like you can't just even buy a box and like pay for a box like $20 an hour or whatever it is and run it. You have to even think bigger infrastructure than that, which makes it pretty annoying. But these evals are pretty nuts, and like actually I believe them because I use their models. I see the differences that they make between each release, and yeah, we're gonna try and have it up for GitHub GG pretty soon. So, yeah.
Wolfram, yeah, we have also Qwen QVQ, and I think we're going to talk about Qwen QVQ in the vision area because this is kind of like a vision model. I just want to like talk about some evals specifically because this model gets just massive comparisons to Claude 3.5, which was considered still to this day, even though we have like all three and everything to talk about, in the non-reasoning models, Claude was still considered like one of the best models. This model either matches Claude or beats it on multiple things. So it comes very close on MMLU Pro. This is, I think, like it beats GPT-4o. The last GPT-4o that numbers were reported, it beats GPT-4o on MMLU Pro at 75. To Claude 78. It beats everybody else besides Claude on GPQA Diamond at 59.1, and we know GPQA Diamond is really hard. Claude is at 65. Math 500, it beats all the other models. It gets 90 at Math 500. Actually, don't know what Math 500 is. Oh, just Math. AIME, that's the one that like all of the reasoning models report, like AI competition math. It gets 39% on AIME, with Claude gets 16. And SWE Bench Verified, which is the software engineering kind of benchmark, it gets 42% to Claude's 50 and GPT-4o's 38. So it beats GPT basically in everything. And it comes close to Claude in many things, which is very impressive, including some things that it beats Claude at. I think that this is like absolutely ridiculous. Wolfram, what's your take? Were you already like getting the vibes from on this model?
Oh, definitely. The people are, the sad thing is now we have the intelligence, but we lack the resources to run it.
Yeah.
So this could be Sonnet at home if we had a supercomputer at home. But the good thing is it's an MOE and there are methods to extract the individual experts from the MOE. So we could create smaller versions with less experts, but they would need less resources. And if they keep some of the performance, that would be very interesting. And I'm sure we will see a lot of stuff. Like when you remember when Llama came out, people weren't able to really run it, especially the big version. So the community got around it and it became possible very quickly. And I expect this model to have the same pull because it's so good in the benchmarks, and we all want Sonnet at home. And this is something where the community is probably making it possible, what is impossible for now. Because it's open, you can download it, you can modify it. It's actually not an open source model again, we don't even have an open source license for it. That's something we could talk about as well if you want.
Do we know the license actually?
Yeah. The license is on the model card, and it's a specific license agreement. It's very, very allowing.
Yeah.
But there are some exceptions, of course, like
Of course
military use and stuff. So that is ruled out, and it's not fully open source in that way. There are some other restrictions as well, what you can do with it. So it's not an open source license, it's open rights. In that way, you can download it, you can use it, but there are some restrictions, of course. So the code is MIT licensed, but the model itself is a specific agreement you have to agree to.
Yep.
But it's still one of the more lenient licenses, definitely, and more so than what others have, like the Quen license, where you have a number of users restrictions and stuff.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, it's great. So it's the best thing we have right now, and now it's up to the community to make it work on more systems, so we can really use it.
The couple of things, the more things to call out here is that compared to the big labs, DeepSeek trained this on, I think, 2000 H800s, not H200s, H800s, and like this is like an order of magnitude less than the big labs have, and I think I saw some estimations from A16Z that it cost them around $6 million to train this model. So,
too. Yeah.
So like the price at the end of 2024, let's say this like properly so that we have this like checkpoint in time. At the end of 2024, the price for a frontier size model, even though like it's hard to run, etc., blah blah blah, we'll get down to this, at FP8 mixed precision is around $6 million. If you have like very very talented team like DeepSeek team, it was trained on 14.8 trillion tokens, and this is the strongest open source base model that we currently have, including Instruct. So we got two versions. We got the base version and Instruct version. Nistan, go ahead.
Yeah. I also tried the model itself. So again, Sonnet is still the best whenever it's not nerfed or the DevOps are down. Just putting it out there. But I tried this one via Hyperbolic and their own site.
Hyperbolic already put it up because Hyperbolic had 2.5 before.
Yeah, but there was some weird thing with the routing that apparently they had switched the 2.5 API to the 3.1 for a bit. And but anyway, I tried it on their site. Yeah, I tried the 2.5 via no, sorry, Open Router, not Hyperbolic. Hyperbolic is hosting 2.5, but Open Router was
Open Router is proxying via DeepSeek. Yep.
Yeah, Open Router is yeah, exactly. And it got the questions right, like the very hard margin questions and stuff. You still notice that Sonnet, when it works well, actually gives you like nicer info. It can give you more code as well with the right prompting. But this is the closest thing to Sonnet at home, and you don't really have to like wait and mess around. Like it just does the thing, like it just inferences the right answer.
We can talk about speed as well.
Complex questions, yeah.
Speed and pricing. Let's talk about speed and pricing, because now we're kind of moving between the open source and the kind of the hosted version. Because like, yes, it's open source or open weights, as Wolfram said. Yes, it's incredible in evals, and we can continue to talk about evals. By the way, this is the second model on Ader's benchmark result. It beats Colin on Ader benchmark. Live code bench, it gets like one of the top models that are not reasoning. There's like a bunch of other confirmations in the vibes that people ran through this that it's the best non-reasoning LLM on like multiple ones. But downloading this is like 700 gigs just to download this model. And yesterday when I did the research, I looked at Hugging Face, and there was like 0 downloads because they released in the morning, and by the time that I did the recap for the show, it just like it takes so long to download that Hugging Face just logged 0 downloads. I wonder how much it is now.
I think it just hasn't logged because quite a few people did grab it. Is there? Oh, the other thing is for people that are downloading, don't download it yet, because there's no actual thing pushed to, well, I haven't checked this morning, but yesterday, there's nothing pushed to Transformers library or Llama CPP to run this architecture. And people thought, oh, it's like a souped up version 2. No, it's the routing is a bit different. There's some sigmoid. It went like from centroid to sigmoid on something. Like the architecture is a bit different enough that it needs like, don't implement it for them. Just wait for them to push the actual pull request to transformers and for it to get merged in before trying to like quantize it and doing stuff with it. Even though the modeling code is somewhat similar to because it's still like the same like 2 plus 6 experts per layer routing, and there's still the expert pool, so the architecture is still similar to 2.5. Very advanced architecture for MOE. Like it's pretty. This is like a second gen thing. It's not like the Mixtral or other stuff. Like
this is a lot of experts. Before. A lot of experts.
Yeah, and they have a pool of experts, and they get picked. Like there's 2 that go on every layer that are like static per that layer, and then they add another like 4 or 6, and these 4 or 6 get dynamically picked from a pool of, it was like 50 something on version 2. Like this is like a second gen. This is like a next gen architecture that only like DeepSeek knows how to do. And it's also why like you can't really like make Frankensteins off this, because it's going to pick those layers dynamically from a pool anyway. Whereas with like previous MOEs, you could make a Frankenstein. Like you can just like duplicate the layers and just go about your day, and you made the model. So yeah, it's pretty it's pretty nice. Look, the economics of it like only works at scale with this. Like you're probably going to need 32 GPUs to actually like serve it to customers, which is pretty. A lot of people are going to be annoyed by that, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. I also want to highlight that a few more things. So first of all, DeepSeek is obviously hosting this on their API. Their API is not versioned. So if you used DeepSeek before, now you're getting V3, and you're basically locked into the pricing of before until, I think they said February. And yeah, after February 8th, the pricing is going to go up. So it's still going to be super cheap, right? So right now, it's 14 cents per million tokens. It's going to go up to wait, no, 1 second. No, yeah, it's I think right now is 14 cents, going to go up to 20 cents, 27 cents, and output is 28, is going to go to $1.10. Right, so like it's costing them significantly more to go and serve this model. So right now is a promotional time. So if you're still getting like the benefit, very interestingly, they don't have versioned APIs. Kind of, it's very interesting. They're a quant firm. They're not like a product firm. So protecting API and versioning the previous one is not something they know how to do. They just replaced the model on production. They yellowed it. Shout out to Weights and Biases. This is the reason why we have observability tools, folks. If you don't log and trace in production with something like our tooling, how would you know that your API changes on you behind the scenes? This is why we have the tooling. But like definitely the pricing though for cached is going to go, actually I think the pricing for cached is still going to be very decent. So they still have caching. They're one of the first APIs that released like prompt caching, so like it's still going to be very decent as well, pricing. And I think comparable to Claude, maybe a little cheaper than Claude.
Yeah, average right now on OpenRouter is 14 cents per million tokens of input, 28 cents per million tokens of output. Interestingly, on their API, they have limited context to 66K, and they have limited the output to 8K. And now I know they can do more than that, but you kind of have to host it yourself, like if you really need that. And the last thing before we make like 2 hours about DeepSeek, it's even with the older ones, when it comes to stuff like fill in the middle, or if you're using it as a tool with, for example, the Llama Vim plugin, which some people, I don't know why they use it. I use it. It's still like the best one. It's like better than 4.0 and Sonnet to like actually fill in reliably the middle parts of your code. Like if you say, hey, just add me this here, and it will do it without rambling other crap out. Like it will just like do the thing, and it's still like the best model for that.
DeepSeek
So,
Coder
yeah.
was still one of the best coding open source models that we had for a while, and like all of that is roped into like inside. I will say one thing that I want to call out before we kind of move on, and Wolfram, I want to hear if you have any like concluding thoughts on this. The thing that they've called out, if you guys remember, we talked about R1, DeepSeek's like deep thought or reasoning kind of model. They used reasoning model in distillation for this model. So they use distillation from DeepSeek R1 chain of thought and creation of synthetic data to create data for this model. It's in the paper, and they literally call this out on their thread as well. And I think that they're not the only ones who are doing this. OpenAI and others. This is definitely what's going to happen, and we've seen this. And I think that this is kind of a part of the snowball effect that we're all experiencing. And I think Karpathy called it out like a while ago. We're getting to these big models, and like Llama 405B is getting distilled to 70 and then to 9B. So like all of these models, and DeepSeek like called it out specifically in the paper, which for some reason I cannot load right now. But the distillation from the reasoning model, which are like longer thinking and specifically can like create more synthetic data, was a one of the secret recipes for this, besides a bunch of experts and besides the technical data, which there's a lot of. If you're into this, the amount of technical details that they shared in their paper is quite absolutely insane. Yeah, let's conclude on this. I think like very, very exciting, like to get the best open source model. Yep. Wolfram, any last parting thoughts? Nistan, parting thoughts on DeepSeek? Besides the fact that it's huge and we cannot like basically run this on any Macs?
Yeah, I think we have to wait a bit until those effects trickle down so we can profit a lot on our local systems as well. But it's fair, and we have seen it time and again. You get something that you can't fully run locally, and the community picks it up and does their thing and optimizes it and distills it. And I'm sure this will be a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, I'll shout out a few
Big
more
applause.
evals super quick, just because we know evals are not super interesting, but still, human eval at 65%, MBPP at 75, live code bench at 19 compared to like 15 and like DeepSeek at Llama base. Just an impressive model. Shout out to Well Bros, just dropping this like quietly and then releasing. Shout out to Well Bros. Let's cover, we're almost at 1 hour. Let's cover QVQ super quick, because our friends from Quen also dropped a model. Also a very interesting preview of something. It's a, yeah, Wolfram, I think you can introduce this one, because I think you did the testing for this one, right?
Yeah, I have run 2 benchmark runs already, and it's still running. So
you want to
yeah,
introduce what it is and what they released before you start talking about benchmarks, or you want me to do it?
Yeah, sure. No,
Go ahead.
I can tell about it. So it's a Quen vision model combined with a 70. So it's a 72B vision model, multimodal. So it has vision and it has a reasoning components we've seen from QVQ, or how do they pronounce it?
Quill. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how the QVQ is pronounced, if that is the right pronunciation. But it's basically the same reasoning coupled with their vision layers on top of a model. So the basic model, it's a 72B preview model completely. And I think it's about 60 billion parameters for the language model part, and the rest is a vision part.
Yep. And let's see. Yeah, I added this to the top of the show, and also you did some evaluations as well. Very interestingly, like this model, it just reasons about the image, and it's really fun to see kind of like the reasoning as well. So again, compared to like 01 and 03, the reasoning here is bare, and you can follow all of the reasoning outright. And the reasoning here about the vision is very, very interesting. I saw it achieve some things that I didn't see for Gemini thinking. So just to compare to, I don't know, the Gemini thinking reasoning model and the 01 reasoning model, those are multimodal as well. The previous Quen Quill, which was the reasoning model, that wasn't multimodal. That was just an like text-based reasoning model. This one is a like vision reasoning model as well. So this thinks over images. What were your comparisons like, Wolfram? What did you run it at? What did you land?
So I was doing the MMLU Pro computer science benchmarks only. So just next part. And I was doing it with the model. I quantized it down so I could run the benchmarks on the system I have with 48 gigabyte VRAM. So it is a 4.65 bits per byte model in Excel 2 format. So it has some fractional bits that way. So it's not the full model performance, just what I can run on my system. And there it was about the 70B size model performance. So it got 70 points in the benchmark, which is not as good as a Quill model did when it was reasoning. So even although it's a bigger model now with the 72B or 60B language model, it still didn't achieve the same performance that we got with the smaller one, interestingly. But yeah, it has a visual capability, which is great. And somebody posted a screenshot in our chat of the podcast right here of some fried chicken and dogs. Don't know if you have seen it. So I ran it through the model and posted the results, not the reasoning, because that was screens of reasoning again. But it's interesting how well it could differentiate between the fried chicken and the dogs. So that is in the chat right here.
Yeah, I'll add this to the show notes as well. But yeah, this is now pinned to the top of the page. You basically see like buckets of fried chicken and what is it, like labradoodles or whatever, golden labradoodles, and like they pretty much seem the same in multiple pictures. Very interesting picture, and the title is "How to Confuse Machine Learning."
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it did a good job in that case. I haven't tried it with Claude, for example, but I will. But this is an interesting test, of course, to see how the model does it. Although I don't know if it can reason very well about these things. It's just a recognition thing, not just a riddle or something it has to solve. Yeah, to sum it up, I'm a bit disappointed actually because it didn't beat the smaller model. I was actually hoping that it would achieve a new high score in this test. But yeah, I have to do more tests with the visual parts to see, because it's a unique model. That's truly the first one I know of where you have a reasoning model combined with a visual part. So that alone is a new achievement, and I'm very happy that we have it.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's also just the preview still. So the folks from Quen are saying that this is like a research preview, and it still has limitations, like everything.
Yeah, that reminds me of one controversy. I don't know if we can call it that way. So it was released with the Apache 2 license, and they re-licensed it. So they changed the license retroactively to the Quen license. So maybe it was a mistake.
Ooh.
Who knows? But if you got it with the old one, then yeah, that license, you can't just change the license, of course. If you downloaded the weights with the old license, yeah, you already have the old license and can use it. So the one I uploaded that has the Apache license, and there were other quants. So some have the Apache license, some the Quen license. You have to check that if you use it. So that was a bit strange move. Not a big fan of the more restrictive licenses, of course, but if that is what they need or have to do, so be it.
I mean, as long as we're getting the models, but yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
We usually like the other side. We usually like the opening up the models, not the other way around.
Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, can someone find the subway example, like the metro example? Because I thought,
What was the metro example?
oh, this was the coolest by far. So someone just was on the New York subway, and they just posted a picture inside it, and they just says, "Should I get off at this station next?" And
I
should
saw
I get
this.
off at Chinatown?
Yeah.
And it
Cocktail
started.
Peanut.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's Cocktail Peanut. Oh,
Yes.
it's our friends. Yeah. This was
Nissan,
the coolest
give a recap.
part.
Give a recap to folks who are like coming in from the middle of this context.
Yeah, Cocktail Peanut actually makes Python apps not horrible anymore. Like they're like the best packaging tool of making UIs and environments and stuff for Python apps. And
Pinocchio.computer. If you want to download like cool like Python-y things, but you don't know Python, Pinocchio.computer is going to be like a godsend. Cocktail Peanut is the creator of that app, and then he ran QVQ on like this. You want to pin this to the top of the space? You want me to find it while you explain?
I'm trying to find it as well.
Okay.
But okay, yeah, I found it, and because I felt the same way with the model on certain things, it was super impressive, but it also seemed like it's still pretty early at this thing. And keep in mind, this is not Quen 2.5. This is the older, slightly older Quen 2, which wasn't a bad model or anything. Yeah. So someone they asked them to should I get off on the subway, and they said like first off the interior, and I'll read it because it's actually super cool. And it says like first off, the interior of the subway car is empty, which is a bit unusual. But maybe it's late at night. It's just a quiet time. The seats are orange and yellow, and there are poles running down the middle of the car for passengers to hold on to. The floor looks clean, and there are various advertisements and signs posted inside. Looking at the signs, I see one that says NYC Care with some text in Chinese, which might be promoting healthcare services in New York City, possibly targeting the Chinese community. There's also a sign that says Canal Street with a number 6 inside a green circle, indicating that this is the 6th train and we're approaching Canal Street Station. Now, I know that Chinatown is located near Canal Street in Manhattan, so this could be a relevant stop for me. But I should make sure I don't want to miss my destination. Let me think about the subway lines in NYC. The 6th train runs from Pelham Bay Park in the Bronx down to Brooklyn Bridge City Hall in Manhattan. Since I'm on the 6th train headed to Manhattan, the sign says Canal Street, which is in Chinatown, it seems like I'm on the right track. But isn't that amazing?
That's amazing.
Right?
That's
Like,
absolutely
especially-
amazing. Like
yeah.
it takes the first person perspective of somebody who writes this and does all this math, and this is crazy.
Yeah, or especially for stuff like assisted mobility, and we interviewed together the Be My Eyes CEO. I've also I went on calls with him, and like it was on the second call that I even found out that he was actually blind. I didn't know. Like,
Oh wow.
like we went on a video call before, and that's how skilled he is with technology that you did not even know that this person was actually blind. So this kind of tool for for visual assists, I think it's a bit of a game changer. Now, it doesn't mean that this model itself will be, although it probably will once they upgrade to 2.5. It just shows that like yeah, guys, just read it. It's pretty like that's what like kind of blew me away.
That's absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Like we're gonna talk about crazier stuff, but definitely give Quen QVQ a try. It's the reasoning through is very interesting. I gave it a very simple. I have this new visual riddle that I found somewhere. It's 3 kids sitting in a school bus on a curvy road, and the question is which way is the bus moving, and the answer is to the left. And the reasoning behind this is because you don't see the doors on the bus and you don't see the driver, but like the reasoning there is where the doors is on the other side. Then because of that, if you the bus drives on the right side of the road, then it's going left. But like I gave it to Gemini thinking, and Gemini didn't immediately got it, and got it afterwards. I got a little bit more context, and this reasoning model actually got it after I provided like the buses in the US. So it's very interesting the reasoning as you can see it. O1 got it immediately, and I think that O1 has it in its training data, this specific question. But very interesting reasoning model from Quen, and shout out to them. Folks, let's move on because we have a bunch of other stuff to talk about, and we're an hour into this, and it looks like we may go over an hour because we still didn't get to the recap. So huge open source news. Quen, QVQ, and DeepSeek are like 2 huge models to the end of the year for us, and I think it's time for us to do a little bit of I guess we're doing we're doing a reset. So everybody who's here, we have over 100 folks now listening. This is ThursdAI. You're on ThursdAI, which is a a weekly AI show. I'll do a reset, and in the middle of ThursdAI, as always, we do a corner that's called This Week's Buzz. And this one's going to be quick. I'm going to be quick with it. But in this one is we have some comments from other folks as well. This one's going to be very quick, but the show is sponsored by Weights and Biases. The show is promoted by Weights and Biases, obviously. If you're here on the space and you see the square co-host here called Weave, Weave is Weights and Biases tool for LLM observability. And so every time on ThursdAI, in the middle of the show, we do a small corner called With This Week's Buzz, where we update you on everything Weights and Biases related. So let's do that. Let's dive into our This Week's Buzz corner. Let's go. One second, please. I don't think
It was hearable.
it was audible, but it was quite horrible. Give me a second. I think now you'll be able to hear
Not
this.
bad. It was like the radio or something.
Yeah, it was quite bad. Let's try again. All right, so welcome to this week's Buzz, the corner where we talk about everything, or I guess I cover everything that happened in Weights and Biases for this week. And actually, this is a future-looking corner where I'm going to update you about everything that is going to happen in January. So 3 things that are going to happen in January. One of them I'm going to add to the top of the space right now. You are, guys, among of the first to be invited to our exciting new free course about LLM evaluation. So Weave, as I told you just about now, Weave is our LLM observability and evaluation tool. Like I said before, and I love to connect to the things that we talk about on ThursdAI. If you're using DeepSeek, let's say API on production, and DeepSeek went and changed their API for behind the scenes for you, and you use their API, and you're expecting some model and then this is another model, and for some reason it performs better, you're like, oh, that's incredible. How would you know? Not only that, they're about to change prices. Let's say that one developer that used to work for your company added this DeepSeek API and then they change prices for you. How would you know? All of that is known by you can achieve all of that knowing by using observability, and this is what Weave lets you do. It's a free tool, free to get started tool called Weave. It's 3 lines of Python code to get started. You get started with 1 line, actually. We're very proud of this tool. It's been improving like crazy for the past year. Honestly, when I joined, we didn't have this last year, and since then I've seen just an incredible amount of innovation in this tool. I've been showing this a while also on the video versions of ThursdAI. And as we're building this tool, many companies talk to Weights and Biases about their evaluation needs and how they evaluate, etc. And so we're also looking into different methods of evaluation, and we are releasing a free course on everything that we've learned about evaluation. And this course, you're invited to check it out. I added this to the top of the page. It's evaluation together with Paige Bailey from Google and with Graham Newbig from All Hands AI. This is an awesome course. I was participant in kind of like, I was looking into the folks who are building this. It's again free to do, and you can pre-register right now. You're the first folks. We haven't published this course yet. Our previous course about advanced RAG apps, like an insane amount of people just pre-registered and loved it. So I'm sure that you guys are going to enjoy. We're offering this for free in our Weights and Biases Academy. One thing that I will call out is that at some point somebody found me on one of the events that I'm going to and said, "Hey, you're from Weights and Biases?" Yes. I was like, "Yes." He's like, you guys are the courses company, right? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you are the company who does the free courses. I was like, yes, but we also have this multi-billion-dollar business in machine learning experiments and observability. It was really funny that somebody found me and they thought that all we do is courses. So we have also a free courses platform, and this is the new upcoming course, and I really want you to know about this and try this and give it a shot and pre-register. It's coming out in January. The other 2 things that I wanted to tell you about is our in-person meetups, one in San Francisco on Saturday, January 11th, and one in Seattle on Monday, January 13th. Both of them I'm going to be there for both of them. Those will be focused on evaluations. If you're in one of them, the Saturday one will be hands-on evaluations for your business, for your startup, etc. Just come to our Weights and Biases office. We're going to sit with you. We're going to try to brainstorm together. Evaluation is going to be like a hack day. No prizes, no competition, not a hackathon. Just come and we're going to like brainstorm together. You can just work on your evaluations, etc. And the workshop, I'm going to give a workshop with ThursdAI together in Seattle on Monday, January 13th. So if you're there, I'm going to post the details afterwards on ThursdAI, but just follow my feed and hopefully we'll see you there as well. Actually, I am going to add this link as well to the show notes. So these are the updates from this week's Buzz, and that's basically it. I don't have much else to say besides a huge thanks to Weights and Biases for allowing the show to happen this whole year, and to Weave for co-hosting the show. And now I think we're moving on to the huge news from last week's Friday, which is O3. And I think it's time. Like, we talked about O3 when it was released, but I think it's time to like take a little second and I don't know, appreciate how insane the Friday release was. So now that we're back in the space, and like all of us in the space, can you guys I don't know, give an emoji reaction of your kind of I don't know, vibes check after O3 was released? Let's do like a AGI not AGI moment. Let's do like a thumbs up if you think O3 is like approaching AGI, and thumbs down if it's not AGI. Let's do that. How about that, folks in the audience, in the space? I'm thinking yes, but I want to see some emoji reactions from folks. I'm saying like some thumbs up, some thumbs up. I see Bartowski giving thumbs up. So let me do a recap for folks who are like just tuning into the show, and all of them are like, all of the news they're getting is only from the show. Let's do a small recap. On Friday, the last of the 12 days of OpenAI's releases, OpenAI promised they're going to go out with a big one, and they did. They announced evaluations for their new frontier model called O3, frontier reasoning model called O3. The reason why they didn't call it O2 is because they didn't want to get into a legal battle, another one with, I think, Telefonica, Wolfram, is that right? Is that the company?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, with Telefonica, with the O2 brand name, O2 Arena, etc. in London. They didn't want to get into a legal battle for the brand name O2, so they just skipped one and said, all right, we're going to call this O3. Based on just the jump in the capabilities, it might as well have been like the next 2 generations of the model, because they completely blew everyone away with the evaluations and the kind of the expectations of what we would expect from the next frontier model of reasoning, based on just how recent O1 was. O1 was announced back in October this year, and we got access to O1 a couple of months ago, and O1 Pro, O1 left preview just the week before, like 2 weeks before. So O1 left preview like in the beginning of the 12 days of OpenAI releases, and then O3 was announced at the end of the 12 days releases. The difference between those two models is just absolutely insane. So in the span of 3 months, OpenAI jumped a ridiculous amount of evaluations. I would just like I'll just talk about like the ridiculous amount. So the highlight of O1's release back when they released it in October was AIME, so competition math. This is notoriously hard for LLMs to do with next token predictions, and so reasoning models, i.e. models that do test time compute or inference time compute, models that reason, like we talked with QVQ, those are better at competition math. O1 preview got 56.7% on AIME 2024. When they got O1 out of preview, they said that O1 gets 83%. And then when they previewed O3, they basically saturated this competition math. It got 96.7%. So basically, it didn't answer just like 1 or 2 questions on the competition math out of 100. It's absolutely mind-blowingly insane. On GPQA Diamond, which GPQA Diamond is maybe one of the hardest benchmarks for knowledge, and we talk about this in LLMs and open source LLMs. It's basically like, it's not reasoning necessarily, it's also reasoning with knowledge. GPQA stands for Google Proof Q&A. This is a PhD level science questions where the average PhD expert in the field of this question, right? If you think about, you're going to university, there's the PhD there, they work their whole life in this topic. That person, the average of PhD subject matter expert in this topic of the question, the average is 85%. So the average of a PhD in the topic of the question gets every 85%. O1 preview got 78. O1 got 78 as well. Actually, O1 got a little bit less than O1 preview, interestingly. O3 got 87.7. So O3 beat the human benchmark for PhD level science questions for expert PhDs in the topic of the question. And I'm hoping that my excitement and astonishment and mind-blowingness comes through the microphone as much as it should, because again, this is the moment where AI breaks through and takes over specific knowledge. Wolfram, go ahead.
Yeah, isn't that exactly what they mean when they say AGI? So that you can do the economically viable human work or stuff like that. So that you are on the level of an expert in the field. That would be my interpretation. So in that regard, they have achieved it in this difficult benchmark and some others like we've seen. So I wouldn't call it AGI by itself yet, but it's clearly the right way and an important aspect. When you put it in an agent and so on, you can achieve a lot, I think, with this model.
Absolutely. So GPK Diamond is absolutely crazy, like the jump there. Nistan, you want to comment on this before we move on to the next evals, and then we're going to talk about implications of this whole thing? It's crazy.
I mean, I've been saying for a while that ADER and GPQA Diamonds are like the two benchmarks that closest reflect also the vibe checks from people as well, which is like vibe checking the model is pretty important. Okay, it's actually it often tends to be more accurate than now what most benches say. So that's now, with that aside, we have to keep in mind that in order to like prove this hypothesis that you can make an LLM be as smart as the average human worker, you also need to have like a control, and also people can criticize it, which is like what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
So, like at the end of the day, as hard as GPQ Diamond is, it gets graduate. It's like multi-step, graduate level questions. Kind of think of like the Martian railgun launcher stuff that I do, but more for like chemistry or other like more formal grad school stuff. But at the end of the day, is just picking like A, B, C, D. Is just picking like the right answer. So it might be possible that for even a small model, if you just run it long enough and if it just guesses enough options, it doesn't have like a whole lot to reach in the end. Like it's just got to reach A, B, C, D. So if you run that reasoning long enough, you might get there. So like I'm worried that this is not we're not yet at something that's like an actual good indicator. Like if you had like a bad report from a power plant and a whole bunch of stuff went wrong or it needs to be redone, I don't think any of like the models today are good enough to actually like make like the construction planning for that or
wait, let's keep going because I agree with you. Like this one specific one with the multiple choice may not necessarily represent, but there's more. On the software engineering Sweetbench verified, we've been focusing on Sweetbench verified as one of kind of the also like gut checks of like how well a model could actually solve coding issues. Sweetbench verified is a collection of GitHub issues in real world scenarios that a model can go and solve. This is the highest score of Sweetbench verified that we've seen at 71.7, and the highest jump that we've seen from the previous model, from 48.9 for 01 to 71.7 for 03. So this is like an insane jump from 48.9 to 71.7 in Sweetbench. So it basically solves 70% of the software engineering tasks in the real world for Sweetbench verified, which is like the harder version of Sweetbench. And Also, one of the craziest one is the competition code for code forces. This is also like state of the art achievement in Elo score of 2727 compared to 1800 for O1. Now, these metrics are like just like absolute state of the art in every metric. There's no model that comes any close to any of these models in these metrics. The only one that could come close is models, pipelines that are not models. This is essentially a model that's thinking, so it's really hard. Like the line is very blurry between what's a pipeline, what's a model, because these are models that think at inference time compute when compute is provided. But I think that the hugest brain fuck or what the fuck moment happened when Greg Comrade, the president of ArcAGI, came on the stage. Very interestingly, friend of the pod, by the way. He was here with us multiple times, I think, on the pod, and I covered like Dev Day together with Greg, interviewed him there. He was a judge at the Weights and Biases Hackathon as well. Great guy. I emailed Greg, or like I DM'd Greg before the show, and I was like, "Hey, Greg, you want to come and like see the last release together?" I did not know he's gonna be on the actual live stream we're gonna watch. Greg comes and talks about ArcAGI. ArcAGI is an eval, a very hard eval that was created by Francois Chalet. It's a visual thing that's easy for humans and hard for LLMs to do, and the previous the previous scores for ArcAGI were very low. So for example, O1 mini gets 8%, O1 preview gets 13% on that ArcAGI thing. The O1, the newly released O1 gets 25 and 31% on this ArcAGI. O3 gets, on the low effort, 75.7%, and on the high effort, 87.5%, effectively beating the ArcAGI test. It's called ArcAGI for the reason of when it was created, the assumption was if anything beats this, it's AGI. Since then, as always, the goalposts of what AGI is and isn't moves all the time. So now it's no longer the test for AGI anymore. But just the absolute insanity of 87.5% on this very, very hard task for models to do is just like absolutely like broke people's brains everywhere. And then there's a whole thing with our very friendly naysayer Gary Marcus in our field that's saying, hey, they tested they trained on the train set, and people saying they didn't train on the train test. The train set. I don't want to get into this all too much. Wolfram, maybe you want to recover this or like maybe comment on this.
This is exactly what I wanted to say. But there's a funny thing, because that's what the training data set is for, to train on it.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is also that they said it's just a small fraction. It's a general model. It's not specifically for the ARC challenge. So they didn't focus on that. They just put that training set into their complete set.
Yep.
And it just did it. So it's not one tightly optimized model just for one purpose. It's still a general model, and it just got smarter. Of course, it was very costly, considering what it costs to run this benchmark. So economically viable is still something that has to be discussed about AGI. But it's possible, and it will get cheaper, of course. So yeah.
So we should talk about this specifically, because on this chart of the ARC AGI private eval chart, there's 2 points for O3. One of them is at 75.7 and one of them is 87.5. And the difference between those is how much compute they gave the model and how much time they gave the model. So in reasoning models, we talked about this. I want to highlight this for folks who are listening for the first time, maybe. We are now witnessing a new scaling law. The scaling law is called test time compute, or aka inference time compute. And this basically was suggested before, and we're seeing the proofs for this law, where the longer you give a model to think, or the more compute you give a model, or basically the better, very predictably better you get at getting results from these models. And we've seen this with O1, and now we see this with O3. We saw this with R1 from DeepSeek. We saw this with Quill as well. So we have confirmations that this is a new scaling law where basically no longer just during trainings are the model getting better at answers. It's also the more time you give them to think, the better they are at answers. And how much better is that difference in ArcAGI between 75.7% and 87.5% is the difference between, I think, like $200 a task and over $1,000 per task or something like this. I don't have like the exact numbers in front of me, but as far as I remember, and this can confirm if I'm wrong, or folks in the comments, the whole ArcAGI cost them around $1 million, which is more than the price itself. ArcAGI has a price. If you beat ArcAGI, you get like $1 million or something. The money it costs OpenAI to test on Arc in terms of compute costs more than the price itself, which is very funny. Go ahead, Nissan.
Yeah, I don't think they like cheated on our. The benchmark's been around for 5 years, and there's been a big price to it, and it's pretty hard to cheat it. I don't think that's what happened, but I am.
Wait, just confirm.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I heard you right. You don't think they cheated or achieved it? I couldn't hear the right thing.
No, I don't think they cheated or whatever. The training said. Like, that's a pretty hard, solid benchmark that's been proven for 5 years straight, and with a price. And like, so if people were cheating on it, we would know long before. So we would have found out how. I just want to say that in the end, my opinionated take on this is that this is not one model. It's like, in some ways, is just kind of trying to get multiple models to emulate the rumble that people go through when trying to do something new, where they just like keep prompting it over and over and then just dumping that in and saying, oh, did this work or not? And then 4 or 5 hours later, maybe like that thing will actually work in the end. And that used to also be the case with GPT 3.5. Like, you just throw stuff at it, and then eventually it might hit the right answer. So in this way, like, they're using larger model, then it's like the smaller model is constantly trying to evaluate it. So in a way, it's like an intelligent brute forcing its way to a multiple choice answer. And personally, I don't really consider that AGI, but like, that's just me.
So on this topic, I want to add a friend who listened to the show and posted this, Paul Calcraft, added a note. I'm going to add this to the top of the space, where O3 is not MCTS, so it's not Monte Carlo tree search. So you can technically get to a level of searching through a space of answers, and we saw this with news research, Forge, for example. We talked about this. They can achieve competition math answers as well with longer thinking, longer processing with Monte Carlo tree search, and you can like do algorithmic search with LLMs as well. You can do this with pipelines, but this is a model that was scaled up. And so, like, the blurry lines between what's a model, what's a pipeline are blurry, because like this is a model that's like thinking, but they aren't doing this with MCTS. They're not doing this with like MCTS. Yes, they're doing this with like just a scale up RL reasoning models. Like they've confirmed this, like an autoregression model. So whether or not this is AGI, that's a different point. I saw from the information today. I don't have access to the information. Maybe I should. But from the information today, apparently, because Microsoft and OpenAI has an agreement on specifically where, if I remember correctly, and maybe folks can correct me if I'm wrong, the point at which OpenAI is no longer beholden to Microsoft is after they achieve the AGI or something like this, right, Wolfram? Is something like that, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
So that point cannot be vague. You expect it to be vague on the multi-billion-dollar company, but the shrewd CEO, that's what the information said. So basically, there's a very specific definition from the information what AGI means in that kind of legal binding for billions and billions of dollars, and that definition is, it's a very specific. Unachievable, and we didn't get there yet from that perspective. So like that AGI has not been achieved by O3. So very, very interesting. Another thing I wanted to call out, Wolfram, before I want to continue, you want to comment on some of the stuff that we just mentioned more, and some folks in the comments as well?
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me right now, but there was this collaboration where they are sharing what they are doing technically. with Microsoft, and once they achieve AGI, I think then that ends and they don't have to share it with Microsoft anymore or something like that. So that was one thing. And I was also critical at first of them, thinking that maybe their reasoning models are a pipeline or something, not just a simple LLM in that way, or multimodal model. But yeah, they have said again and again that it is just an LLM, just a model. So yeah, if we believe them, we can check it for ourselves. Then apparently it's still just one model doing all this almost magical stuff.
Just
No, it's
crazy
two.
magical.
It's two. There's a big one and a small one. It's always been like that. Like, I
What do you mean
don't
there's two?
think it's I don't think it's MCT and stuff like MCT is pretty bad. It's always been at least two models. Like I don't. That's not just just one model. Like they have one big uncensored one, and then like they have the smaller LLM like actually taking those what reasoning steps are happening.
Oh, and obfuscating for us.
This was never one model.
No, but
This
like
is
the obfuscation
always-
happens for us, for the users. Like the O3 and O1 are models, just one model. Obfuscation happens so we don't see the actual train of thought and don't train on it. But that's not part of the
I always
thinking.
had it as multiple models. I mean, even Sam Altman said like they have the uncensored one, and then they have the smaller model doing the evaluations, and then like injecting stuff, and then like restarting the whole thing. Like it's more like an ecosystem. But I mean, okay, like we could get this correctly.
I got
after,
confirmation before. I asked when O1 was released, and I was directly answered by OpenAI folks that like this is a model, not a pipeline of models, not a pipeline in the sense of a pipeline. And also there is a confirmation on top from Rune and some other folks as well from OpenAI. Let me move on to this next thing that I wanted to talk about: frontier math. If you guys remember frontier math, we talked about frontier math. Frontier. Let me find this frontier math. It was released as by Epoch AI as a couple of months ago. Epoch AI released this like very, very, very hard benchmark that's called frontier math, where at the time where they released it, the best possible score that any LLM achieved on it was 2%. And when they released it, they were like, "Ta-da! We're excited to release frontier math. The next frontier in evaluation needs very hard math." Ta-da! Because GSM 8K and other like math benchmark were saturated, we're releasing this one that the evaluation that's gonna hold us on for a while for the next one. And at the moment of releasing, the best LLM is solving only 2% of the problems on frontier math. And then they've added like a bunch of folks on frontier math that they're talking about how difficult those models are. O3 solved 25% of frontier math. And those questions are super challenging. They cited like math Olympiads talking about how challenging frontier math are, and those are not like just selecting questions that you need to like prove those are verifiable math questions, but you have to prove like how you got there. O3 just solved 25% of those, and Noam Brown, the guy who basically I think one of the core researchers for the reasoning models, and I think he's credited by running for the past 2 years, he says this is the result I'm most excited about. LLMs are dumb in some ways. Saturating evals like frontier math would suggest AI surpassing top human intelligence in certain domains. When that happens, we may see a broad acceleration in scientific research. So that was very, very exciting to see. And I specifically on this one, I was like, my head was blown on this one thing specifically. In addition to O3, by the way, the last thing that I want to cover here, OpenAI talked about O3 Mini. And the thing about O3 Mini is that like many people just like focused on O3 and evaluations. I focused on O3 Mini because the evaluations they added for O3 Mini are also mind-boggling, because they talked about they're going to release O3 Mini by end of January probably, and O3 Mini is going to be much faster and cheaper than O1 that we kind of have access to now. but in most benchmarks, O3 Mini is going to beat O1. So not only is the next frontier model significantly better than the previous frontier model 3 months into this, which again, I want to like focus on what I'm saying, and like I want to like, if you're not listening to, like, if Alex is droning on in the background, just like focus on me for a second. After 3 months, OpenAI is jumping in capabilities in like in an unprecedented sense, and there's no reason for them to stop. Like we haven't seen the scaling laws. There's a bunch of tricks more. Like they will probably continue to just like improve in this like reasoning sense. But not only do we get a new model that's significantly better than previous model 3 months afterwards, not a year, not 2 years like previously, 3 months afterwards, the next distilled smaller model, the O3 Mini, is matching the previous like top model in most capabilities. In fact, O3 Mini also accepts 3 reasoning efforts settings. So you as a developer could provide O3 Mini as low, medium, and high reasoning efforts. And on the high reasoning efforts, it beats O1 in multiple benchmarks as well, while being cheaper and faster, significantly cheaper and faster. So the next reasoning model is going to be very, very performant. The next workhorse of reasoning is going to be O3 Mini, and it's going to beat O1 from right now. And that's going to happen in less than a month. I found that to be like absolutely ridiculous in just the pure sense of jumping in capabilities, because O1 now for coding is like absolutely insane, but it's slow, and many people don't use it for coding because it's slow and it's slower. So that O3 Mini, like for me, was just mind blowing. Want to welcome LDJ to the stage. LDJ, we covered O3 pretty much like all over. Wanted to hear your thoughts on this as well, and then Wolfram.
Yeah, it caught me by surprise, caught a lot of people by surprise. Did you cover some of the misconceptions around the cost of O3 Full?
No, let's talk about the cost.
Yeah, so I think there was like a little bit of misconceptions because people saw on ArcAGI it said like $2,000 spent on certain tasks and things like that. But I think it's worth clarifying now, specifically because they had it literally run like over 1,000 attempts per task, and then you get like that crazy high cost through that. But if you actually break down the token spent and the cost and everything that they log for ArcAGI, it actually equals the same $60 per million tokens as O1 output. So it seems like, at least if the ArcAGI numbers are correct, O3 is actually same cost per token as O1 full.
Really? I didn't know this.
Mhm.
Wow. That's incredible. All right.
But I guess a small caveat that it'll spend a little bit more tokens though. So if it spends, double or triple the tokens per chain of thought, then you're going to end up spending maybe double or triple for O3 versus O1 on that same question.
Yep. Alrighty, folks. I think this was it for O3. I think we're moving on, I guess. O3 beat ArcAGI, and this is like the crazy on semi-private eval. The other big news in big companies is XAI raising Series C of $6 billion with like A16Z, BlackRock, Fidelity, like a bunch of. It's really funny when a funding round has Sequoia at like number 8. It's really funny, but basically they raised another $6 billion. They're well on their way for a supercluster with 200,000 H200s overall capacity, and I think all of them are going to be in this Memphis supercluster in like one supercluster, which is going to be absolutely insane. Just absolutely insane. It just mind-boggling of a jump. Yeah, I think that this is the big company's setup, and I think we have a little bit of time to. Yeah, Wolfram, go ahead.
Just one thing. Someone mentioned in the comments here as well, because we discussed it last week, but Google has their own reasoning model, We looked at it before, but it's interesting that I didn't see much talk about this. So O1 or 3 got all the news time, but I haven't even run a benchmark myself because the APIs rate limited me. But for some reason, there's not much talk about what Google is offering in this arena right now.
Yeah. We covered this a little bit when it came out, if you guys remember, live on the show. I did some evals, and the highlight for me was from Gemini Thinking is that it's fast, and it was matching O1 on the subset of questions that I got from the ones that we often run from Simple Bench. It matched O1 at like half of the questions that it answered. It was very interesting to see, but the speed with which it did was crazy. So last week on the show, like I showed the O3 reasoning efforts comparison a day. Like I think the thinking came out a day after, and I did the comparison, and the speed that Google has is significantly faster than O1. I think even O1 Mini, definitely than O1. And I think that Google is coming for the thinking as well. That's for damn sure. They're not going to leave this area for OpenAI for long.
They are doing so many experimental models. Maybe it could be that it's too much because they throw them out all the time, and there's not much information about them. So yeah, it's a bit weird. Maybe some oversaturation or something. I don't know.
Yep. Alrighty, folks. I think that we're at time for basically the coverage of the news for this week. Let's talk about kind of the rest of the stuff that we want to cover. O3, XAI. The other things that I wanted to mention is basically Google's recap of like the crazy stuff. By the way, like this is great that you brought it up. Let's finish up with the other stuff that they released. Just in the Google's recap of the stuff that they released, Imagen 3, VO2 for video, and Genie 2 for interactive world models. Gemini 2 Flash was like a very big release from Google, and then Gemini Experimental is we're still trying to figure out what Gemini Experimental 1206 is. Is that Gemini 2 Ultra or not? That's unclear. And then 2.0 Flash Thinking, that's the reasoning model from Google, the first one. Nom. I forgot his last name from the somebody remind me from Transformers.
Oh, Noam Shazir.
Noam Shazir, thank you. Noam Shazir, who came back to Google from Character AI, he posted about the thinking first. So it looks like that's the guy behind the thinking effort, and potentially there's a lot more to be coming from the thinking still. And that's only the flash thinking, right? Like we may get Gemini Ultra thinking or something, and that could be like significant as well. And also some other things that they released, like Project Astra and Project Mariner, etc. So definitely a bunch of releases from Google for the quarter as well. In vision and video, there's not a lot for this week, but definitely it was a crazy year. So we're going to cover this in the year. But Kling released a new update. And then I wanted to cover Hume Octave, the $3 billion speech language model. It just sounded super cool to me. And I think that I can play a voice. Let me see if you guys can hear this. Let me know if you guys can hear this. Can you guys hear this? So this is an input. This is Ilya Sutskever talking in NeurIPS 2024. So like 2 weeks ago. And now this is Octave. And then basically their example is kind of very similar to Notebook LM and how you can interact with the hosts. Not only does it clone Ilya, it basically says that like it takes over the personality somehow with this new Octave thing. And they have a few more examples. So they literally just cloned the Notebook LM demo. You guys listen to this. This is the input. This is Notebook LM. So this is the input, and now this is their model. So I find it like pretty crazy. They talk about less than 300 milliseconds of voice generation, and they also create voices. So with prompts like Scholarly Wizard Mentor, they create this voice. So very similar to 11 Labs voice creation, they can like give a prompt and create a voice from the prompt. So this is like a generation of a voice with a personality and accent and expressions, and like all of this happened with like less than 300 milliseconds. I found it super, super cool. And the cloning time it takes less than 5 seconds of clone. So OpenAI sent a voice. This is OpenAI sent a voice. This is input. This is theirs. This is pretty damn good, folks. And I think I'm bringing this because in my predictions from last year, I was waiting for a model like this. This didn't release. They didn't release this yet. But I was waiting for a model like this to drop, and I thought that like after elections, when people will relax with the deepfakes and everything, a model like this will actually drop. But with 5 snippets of an audio, they can clone this audio with very, very simple things. And this is also an LLM. So like this is a 3 billion parameter LLM that has, you know, MMLU and common sense QA. It has like percentages in it and arc easy. Like this is an actual like evaluated LLM on top of like being an audio model as well. I found it super cool. I want to add this to the top of the show. Folks, what do you think about this one? Wolfram, I saw you react to this. Did you hear some examples of it?
Yeah, I've been following stuff like that for a while because I have used XTTS v2 for my local assistant to talk to her and give her a voice and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was all over the 11 Labs stuff where you can create your own voice as a prompt. So that summarizes or the Notebook LLM stuff at Notebook LM. So this is a combination of a lot of interesting things all culminating in one model. And of course, I would love to have something like that locally, and the size, you could run it locally with the 3 billion parameters. So yeah, I hope we get something like that to play with around locally.
Yeah, I've asked for this. Alan Cohen is the CEO of Hume, and I asked him any plans for open source. And he says, what cases do you envision with open source? But he said, basically, problem with open source, anyone could create a super convincing replica of you instantly, use it to call your family members, your bank, well beyond anything currently available. Folks who are listening to ThursdAI, we said this last year. We're going to say this today. We're going to keep saying this. If you and your family don't have a safe word yet, where somebody calls you from a number, claims to be your family, and talks to you, get a safe word now. Like, talk about them. Use the you're in Christmas with your family, whatever. Get a safe word to make sure that if a person from your family comes from a weird phone and says, hey, I need like $200 to get out of jail or whatever, you have to have a safe word with your family because your voice can be cloned for 5 seconds. And regardless of whether or not this technology is open source, it already can happen. Like, this is my answer basically to Alan Cohen's, like, if they open sources, this can happen more. It can already happen. And it could have happened a year ago as well. And so basically the only answer right now is, you know, trust the sources. So hopefully nobody can like simjack, or it's not going to worth being simjacking your mom. But basically you need to have a very strong way to prove that you and your family are who you say you are. I think that's most of the stuff. Folks, I want to get to predictions, and I want to run super quickly through yeah, we're probably going to go a little bit longer than we usually go through. I want to run through this year in review for you know, everything that we got this year. It's going to be a lot, but we're going to try to get through it. If you folks are interested in sticking around for like this year in review, you know, I tried to highlight like the more important things, but maybe Nistin and Wolfram, and you got this link, LDJ, I'll send you the link as well. We can run through. I did use an LLM for this, so we're at the mercy of Gemini. What I did is I took all of the ThursdAI newsletters, and there were 48 so far for this year. By the way, we did every Thursday this year besides one in July. Besides one in July where I took a vacation, every Thursday we were here giving you news. And so there was like 48 releases this year. I took all of them and I sent them quarter by quarter to Gemini, and I asked Gemini to give us a month by month kind of updates of what's interesting in each category. There's a lot there, so I don't think we're gonna talk about everything, but let's go January, February, March, April, etc., and just talk about like the stuff that we released. I think some of it is going to be surprising to many of us, because I think that given the crazy ramp up of the things that we got to, I think we have already forgotten some of the stuff that happened just this year. So I think that that's going to be a very interesting exercise for us to do. LDJ, let me just send you a link as well, so you're going to be looking at the same thing we're looking at. And we're going to start with January. So let me just like do a little presentation. All right, folks. This is a year in review from ThursdAI co-hosts for 2024. This is basically everything that happened in the LLM world for the past year. This year in review was prepared with an LLM, so keep in mind that some of this could be hallucinated in terms of dates, but it was prepared based on the content of ThursdAIs for the past year. So let's start with January. In January, I think... let's see what very big interesting things happened in January. Stability released stable LLM. Not very interesting. Adept released Fuyu in open source in Vision, and Fire Lava was released, and Moondream, our friend Vic, released Moondream 1, a very tiny Vision video model.
I use that. I use Moondream.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, you see how quickly those things get outdated. That is very interesting because it's been less than a year, and most of these things aren't even relevant anymore.
Absolutely. Let's see in February. February was the announcement of Sora. Not the release of Sora, but February is where the first we got Sora announced, and Google teased Gemini 1.5 with 1 million context window. We didn't have like Gemini 1.5 yet back in Google. We only got Gemini a year ago. It was a Gemini anniversary a couple of months ago. So Gemini 1.5 was only starting to get released, and a 1 million context window was kind of like announced as well. In open source, Nisten, are you with us? LDJ, you with us? You want to read out the open source of February? Interesting things from back then?
I'm here, sure.
Yeah, I'm
Do you
here.
mean on the link that you sent?
I sent you in DM.
Dude, we got these predictions on the ball, man, except for
Yeah, no, we're
Mistral.
doing a recap. Predictions
Holy
is later.
cow,
Predictions
okay.
is later, dude. Let's do a
I
recap.
just wanted to add one thing here. We were you mentioned Gemini getting 1 million token context. I think at that time we were on Llama 2, where we only had 8K. Was it 8K? I think
Yep.
it was 8K. So yeah, 8K was the biggest we had locally. So 1 million, that was wow.
The difference
Science
between
fiction.
them was absolutely crazy. Yep. We got, let's see what else we got. We got memory added to ChatGPT back in February only. And then we got Envision Video, got Reka and Reka Flash. Well, those models that I sometimes use still, those are pretty cool models. And since then, they got upgraded like multiple times. I think this exercise is going to be very interesting in terms of like how quickly all of this is kind of behind us and is not relevant anymore. This is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. We were so excited when they came out, and then now we almost forgot most of these,
Yep.
unfortunately. Or
That's okay.
fortunately.
Okay, so are we in March?
Yeah, I think let's move to March. March was the big one for sure.
Yeah, I can read March. But...
Let's do some March things. What was the most interesting thing?
Well, there was the news Hermes 2 Pro. Yi had the Yi 9B. There were Argila had released a whole bunch of data sets. Did they get acquired by Hugging Face?
Argia got acquired by Databricks, I think. No?
Oh, Databricks. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and then Cloud 3 Opus came out.
Yes, I think
And
this is the big
yeah.
March thing, right? Like Claude 3 released in March. Not 3.5, 3. Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku.
Yeah. They released 3. Cohere had Command R. Mistral moved. Oh, they released Mistral Large, so that was pretty good. Is it for a while? OpenAI started doing fine tuning on GPT 3.5, and some DeepSeek VLM was released. I don't think anyone used that.
No.
Stability had Playground 2.5, and we started getting Devin was announced. So there was that.
Back in March.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Open Interpreter launched their stuff. Cerebrus announced their chip, which is now out. and we had them on the show after. And yeah, then the Pi team went to GG and got sent over to Microsoft. And then also the same thing looks like it's happening to Bing Chat after the same team. Sorry, but Bing Chat used to be really good until they hired people from Inflection to run it.
Yeah.
And sorry, that's just my opinion. Like, this is not Alex.
This is
or
not in
Michelle.
the
Yeah.
show notes. This is
Yeah, this is not in Alex's show notes.
spitballing. I want
that's
to like
about it,
highlight
yeah.
in March also Neuralink implanted the first implant, which is I think is a big thing. Like a first possibly AI related first human augmented with a Neuralink chip happened also in March. I think in open source in open source LLMs in March, speculative decoding started like happening like as a big thing, with Sequoia speculative decoding from together and some other things. But pretty much that's it on March. The biggest thing was Claude.
Agila went to Hugging Face, by the way.
Oh, Hugging Face, yeah, you're right. I was thinking about somebody else.
But I think March was a really big month because the Command R Plus model, that was my local favorite for a long time, and Opus was my online favorite for a long time. So that was a big jump in capabilities and usage, and yeah, good times. Great models.
Yep.
Still fond memories.
I'm honestly pretty jealous of them because they got acquired for 10 million and then got the part of Hugging Face, and then they just kept releasing models on Hugging Face. Like nothing actually changed what they do. They just kept doing the same thing, which was pretty.
One other
pretty
thing
funny.
in March that happened that I don't know if it was sequential or not sequential. Grok was open sourced, and it was not that impressive. Like
that one.
Like
nobody cared. I think
right,
nobody could
cared.
run it, and nobody tried to make it run for some reason.
I made it run, and like I regretted it. This like after all that work, this is all you get.
All right, so are we moving to? Let's do April. LDJ, you want to take April?
Yeah, sure. So here, for April, what we had is open source LLMs. We had Command R Plus. What's some more interesting things that happened in that month?
Jamba
We're not going to go over every single thing.
No,
in
not
that
everything,
month, right?
but like try to pick out the most
just
interesting
like the
things for you.
Yeah. Oh, Mistral. Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought it said Mistral released their first 7B model, but no, it's their
this is Mixtral 8x22B was released.
Oh, Mixtral, yeah.
Yeah, Mixtral was released.
Yeah, that was pretty big.
Yep.
Yeah, I think like that didn't get as much attention as maybe it deserved as well. Like definitely more attention than Grok, but I think it's just also because of the size. It wasn't exactly going to be popular anyways with the most of the open source community because a lot of them don't have the resources to run that. But it was big in terms of peak capabilities that you could run open source. What else? Udio, I think that was pretty big, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys messed around with that?
Yeah, Udio and Suna, I think, kind of around the same time started like coming out, and the music or audio things around April started like happening and being a thing where people actually start creating music with these models, and since then it's like pretty much prevalent.
Yeah, and I think that was mostly it for April.
I have a few more, and I think they just didn't.
Humane.
The pin, you guys forgot.
Yeah, but I mean, sure. I guess we can talk about that, but yeah, I mean, like if people had higher expectations for it, I was hoping it would kind of end up better as well. But it was riddled with a lot of problems, like very super long response times. You talk to it and it responds like 30, 60 seconds later, and then just many other kind of like quality of life issues and yeah. Gemma models, they released new versions of recurrent Gemma and code Gemma during April, and those are kind of more on the experimental side of things. Code Gemma, I think, was maybe really good for its size, but Yeah. Is there anything else I may be missing for April? I think
Yeah.
those are the main things.
Let me run through some stuff that maybe didn't add to the thing that I sent you guys. Phi 3 was released, open sourced in late April. And then let's see what else. I think that's pretty much from like the FindWeb was released, which is pretty cool, like a massive like a data set. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Gemini some updates, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And I think that both Rabbit and AI Pin kind of were disappointed back in April. Like we expected more from hardware devices, maybe, or we expected hardware devices to be a thing. They came out in April, and both sucked. I'm holding right now in my hand at December 26th after April. The Rabbit, I just charged it today. I haven't used it yet because it now says hardware update is required. Every time I turned it on since then, a software update was required. I haven't used it since then. The Humane pin that I bought, I returned unboxed, so I didn't even open it back then. Let's do May. I can try to do May. Let's do May. May, I think, was very big. Microsoft open sourced like a bunch of Phi models, like Phi 3 mini and small and medium. Mistral released an update to their 7B models and added function calling and new vocabulary and a bunch of other things. And Aya from Cohere was released in open source. Let me see what else in open source. AlphaFold released. No, sorry. DeepSeek V2 was released back then. That was a 236 billion MOE with 21 billion active, like compared to what we now have as a third of the size. Let's see what else. Some merges of Llama. Maxime Lebon merged the 120 billion Llama 3. And I think that's pretty much it in open source from May. Let's see what else interesting. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it in open source. Oh, and Polygemma from Google as well. Let's see.
Yeah, May was slow. I should go June.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. May on. Wait, we got something from May that was big. Hold on one second.
Well, there was the mini CPM one, which actually a lot of people still use to like scan documents. That's still actually a pretty good model.
Yeah. For May, the thing in big companies was big. May was Google I/O on May 16, and we got previews for Gemini 1.5 Pro and Flash. They announced it with 2 million token context window. That was back in Google I/O. A day before that, I think that was like the 2 days that were like crazy. OpenAI released their fall update with updated versions of GPT-4o and Vision and advanced voice mode. That was the day in May that we got advanced voice mode, like Gemini 15, May 15, May 16. And then the day before Google I/O, OpenAI released their updates with voice mode and video, which, if you guys remember the whole Scarlett Johansson and Sky Voice thing, that was back and then. And then a day after that, Google I/O announced Gemini 1.5 Pro and 1.5 Flash, which were available to developers like globally. And then Project Astra was announced, which is still not around, but now is getting closer, which is kind of the voice assistant with eyes that you can walk around and show things, but very similar to what Gemini has in real time. What else from Google? Some updates from Google. I think those are the main things. And VO2 was announced back then. We didn't get VO2 back then, but VO2 was announced back then in May as well. And then, yeah, let's move on to June. I think June was
just
big.
a quick note about the Sky Voice controversy.
Yeah.
So now we have cloning tools, so we can bring the voice back, and there have actually been efforts even back then. There were some recordings, and they were used to recreate the voice and use it for other stuff. So I did it myself as well, because yeah,
I really like that voice.
Take a couple of seconds, and then you can have it for your own local model.
I really like that voice. So I think that this is it for May. Oh no, the last thing is 1,000 tokens per second Llama was broken. So this is the first time. Samba Nova was the first one. Since then we got to 2,000, but the first break between Samba Nova and Grok was broken. The 1,000 tokens per second on Llama 3 full precision barrier. was broken by the two companies, Samanova and Grok, and I think since then Cerebrus got to 2,000, which is like absolutely insane. Let's move to June, because we got, I think the main thing from June was Qwen 2. Qwen 2 was absolutely great back in June. We're now like, we're since then moved so far away. But in June, we got DeepSeek Coder V2 as well. Nistan, I know you used DeepSeek Coder for a while since then. But it feels so long ago. But yeah, Nemotron 4 from NVIDIA was open source. Like, it's a big model. And since then, Nemotron got distilled into multiple ways. It looks like Nemotron is like a big thing from NVIDIA and continues to be a big thing. What else, folks? What are you seeing in June that was interesting?
Sonnet.
Right. Yeah. Was that Sonnet 3.5? Yes. This is the
3.5. Yeah. So that was a new generation was announced and released that way. So it replaced Opus and bedded, and it's still one of my absolute favorite models.
Yep.
So it has aged very well. Even if they re-release 3.6 as 3.5 or whatever you can call it.
3.5 new. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the first release, that was a landmark. That was really, really big for a long, long time. Few things in the past have lasted that long, I think.
Yeah, that was almost like that deserved like a GPT-4 level announcement, because the jump in capabilities was pretty massive with the 3.5 Sonnet.
Also in April, sorry, in June. Where did I get to April? Oh no, one thing that I forgot, absolutely forgot. You guys see Weave here as a co-host. Back in May, Weave was launched for the first time in May. I think it's very important to shout out. Weave was launched in May only, and Weights and Biases launched in Weave and is now open to developers in GA like just last year. Just last month. Moving on to vision and video. If you guys remember, Runway released Gen 3 back in this was like after Sora and everything. Gen 3 was just launched, and like it started to kickstart this whole like video generation thingies. And then I'm also like looking not at the summaries, I'm looking like through the actual things. There's a bunch of stuff that like were promised that was not released. One of the cool things that I was promised that wasn't released is DeepMind's V2A, video to audio model. Because remember, like DeepMind teased like a video to audio model, and we didn't get one. But now we got one in open source called Audio, and that one is super dope. And I think Gemma 2 was released as well. Was that in June or starting of July? I think Gemma 2 was released in June, and we actually had the person from Gemma talk to us on the pod, which was super cool. I think that
you put it on September in the list that you sent.
No, I'm trying to see. I'm unfortunately getting to a realization that still in December of 2024, relying on Gemini and 2 million context window, giving it all of the notes, means that it didn't do a really good job in summarizing. So I'm still like, I'm backing up my notes with like the actual, I'm just going one by one with the actual things and running through them. Let's do July. So what do we have in July? Let's take a look. Wolfram, you want to take July?
From the list you sent?
Yeah.
So, okay. Just one thing, the Florence model, that was also in June, I think.
Oh yeah, that was huge.
And that is still relevant today, I think. Yep. I see it around sometimes. So yeah. And July, okay, what do we have? Microsoft Tech Report, okay. Llama 3.1 were announced. The 405B, the big one. So that was a bit of a surprise when they announced that. I think we didn't expect such a big model. And a few people could run it, at least at that size. So it was a very big thing. And what do we have? Hermes released some stuff. GPT-4o, of course. That is a big one. That is, it's still here in the list. So the multimodality stuff and everything.
Yep.
This was Gemini 1.5.
Only in July. I'm just realizing it. It feels like so long ago.
If Gemini didn't mix it up, then that was that moment when it was at least made available, or was it announcement or made available? Available to free users as well. Yeah.
Yep.
So that was a big thing, of course. GPT-4o, so relevant today, of course. even if I'm using O1 much more recently. But the multimodality stuff that finally was made available just recently. So I'm still waiting for the vision stuff in Germany.
Yes.
I need to enable my VPN, then it works. But without it, it doesn't. Yeah, what do we have? Claude's artifacts. Yeah, artifacts. That was a big feature that others are copying now, and that made Claude even more useful. So that was a big thing for UI,
I think
and
still
was
a
very
major
innovative.
point for folks to choose Claude AI over like GPT-4. Many people love artifacts as a like a thing. Yep.
Yeah, although they got it with yeah OpenAI stuff in recently.
Yeah,
as
that's
well.
true with Canvas, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like a little bit different because you can't like necessarily share like ready-made apps like artifacts. So it's a little bit different, but yeah, very interestingly, the same person worked on both, and she left Anthropic and went to work on Canvas in OpenAI.
Yeah, okay.
So,
We don't
yeah.
mention the Rabbit, I guess. We could skip that. And OpenAI's advanced voice mode, that is a big thing, of course. And the others are
Advanced voice mode for
starting.
alpha users. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
So
when we
that is
start.
something. Excuse me.
No, sorry.
Continue.
Go ahead. I cut
I
off.
just meant that is when it got started, and we are finally getting it now with other models and stuff. So there's still a lot of work to do before we have something in that capability running locally. But yeah, that was back then, quite a while.
Yep. So July, that was July. July was like fairly chill. The advanced voice mode I think was like super cool. Let's do August. So Meta released SAM2, Segment Anything 2, which was like crazy. After like Florence and SAM2 together, they like just like absolutely incredible models. Google gave us Gemma 2 in 2.6b, and we got distillation open source from RCAI Distill Kit. Let me see what else from open source. Yeah, we talked about this one, and then Qwen 2 was released and like became like Math King as well, which is pretty cool. And Mini CPM was released as well. Let me see if I have another things for open source in August. And of course, no, Hermes 3 was released from News Research, 405B. So these were like Llama 3.1 fine tunes, and Answer AI released Colbert Small, and since then they they retrained Modern BERT. So Answer AI like Colbert Small is no longer relevant, I guess. In big companies in August, we got, what did we get in big companies? Let's see. Let's see what we got. Nothing huge from big companies I'm looking at, right? Google made Gemini 1.5 generally available.
It's Grok 2.
Yeah, Grok 2 was released, and they said it's like on par with GPT-4. Meh, right? Yeah.
If you look on Aderbench, which we talked about before, it gets beaten by 4 points in coding, but like Qwen 8B, it's Qwen 7B running in 8-bit. Yeah, it's not that good. And even if you go on LM Arena, you just switch to hard prompts English. It's not. It's like
Yeah.
Anyway, it is what it is. But
in I think the thing we missed is Black Forest Labs was announced. I think it was back in July or something. So Flux was released, and Black Forest Labs was released. I think this was a big one that's very important because like after stability and everything, we got a lab that releases like incredible image things. And one last thing that we also skipped is Apple Intelligence was announced in WWDC in between June and kind of August. We skipped that and kind of rolling back. Let's do September. September was big, and now we're getting into into a lot of things. So like September, October, November, December were like big. September was reflection. If you guys remember the whole reflection thing, was very interesting because reflection was kind of a sign of things to come, but was not like backed up by actual evaluations. But it was very interesting because the whole concept of reasoning ended up being the whole thing we're talking about now. It's very, 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 very interesting upon reflection. Sorry about the pun. Wolfram, go ahead.
Yeah, I have experimented a lot with the prompts, chain of thought and reflection as well, and it's currently in my assistant prompt as well. But what I noticed, maybe it's relevant in this context, is because if you have a smart model, it helps a lot. But if you have a model that is not as smart, all the reasoning and stuff doesn't help because it does a lot of chain of thought and stuff and reflection, but it's too dumb to realize what it means. And so I think that could have been why it looks great on paper, and then when you try it, it's a bit disappointing if you don't already have a great model that can make use of the tools you are giving it with reflection and chain of thought stuff.
Yep.
So that was my experience with this.
And then a week after Reflections, Drama, etc., OpenAI announced O1. This was in September. This was the announcement. OpenAI announced, like, reveals the O1 models and launches O1 Preview and O1 Mini in the chat and the API. Training with like reinforcement learning and reasoning. Like, we got the whole like, hey, here's reasoning and this is how reasoning works, which was like incredible. This was in September 12th. So like 4 months ago. DeepSeek 2.5 was incredible and very, very cheap back in September as well. Mistral Relix Pixtral 12B was very good at OCR. And let's see, Google's Data Gem, not super interesting. Apple event talked about Apple Intelligence launching soon, which was like very not worthy. And Google Notebook LM launched back in September. And if you guys remember, we had Riza and Steven on the show before it blew up everywhere else. I want to call out this like one success. We had the folks from Notebook LM talk to us about Notebook LM, and Riza, she's no longer there, but like she led the product for Notebook LM for a while. Did not have any followers. Actually, it was really hard to find her in the audience when we talked with Riza. Notebook LM launched back in September as well, which is now like a whole thing. I actually used Notebook LM today to prepare. Qwen 2.5 was released also in September afterwards. 2.5 Coder became like a good, very good model as well. So the Qwen 2.5,
that was huge.
That was huge.
Actually.
The whole drop of like 2.5 drops and math and Qwen 2.5 Coder. That was like a big drop in September. I remember this one still to this day. Those models look very, very good.
This was basically their Sonnet, their Sonnet jump.
That's their Sonnet
just
jump.
call it.
Yep.
Just call it the Sonnet 3.5 jump. That's yeah. This was there. Yeah.
Absolutely. What else is there? Oh yeah, there's a bunch of like updates to video models. And Llama 3.2 was released also in September. They added multimodality to Llama. Only in September they added like 3.2, 11B and 90B. Wolfram, you recently said they added more than just multimodality in 3.2, right? They added like a little bit more.
Yeah, they did more languages, I think, that got into it with the new one.
Yep.
So it was not just the multimodality, but the training set was expanded.
Yeah. Also in September, advanced voice mode finally was released to everyone. Well, everyone, I think, except Europe, right? And then you got it a little bit after?
Yes.
Yeah.
They rolled it out gradually. So with VPN, you could get it earlier, just like the Vision stuff right now.
Yeah. So it took them like 4 months to release advanced voice mode. And then Google updated 1.5 to 0.02 and 1.5 to 0.02, like Flash and Pro to 0.02 as well. Those were like fairly big updates. From Meta, we got, like besides Meta voice mode, we got Project Orion. Which was like tangential to AI, but Project Orion is the like holographic glasses announcement. I think that was like huge to me personally because I got to see like them, and I think that was like super cool. Very quick folks, we're picking up because like the last quarter was insane. Okay, the last quarter was insane. Very quick afterwards, OpenAI Dev Day happened. So I think that was October 6th, I believe. October 3, I think. Yeah, October 3. Dev Day was like absolutely crazy. So they announced like a bunch of stuff at Dev Day. Basically, O1 models over the API. Real-time API was announced. So developers could actually build with advanced voice mode, fine-tuning for vision, and then cost reduction. Those are the main things in Dev Day. After Dev Day, what else was interesting? Let's see. Nothing that big in terms of open source. Yeah, nothing that big in terms of open source. Flux 1.1 Pro was released, which was faster than 1.1 and higher model. That was like the main thing in start of October. Then we got 2 Nobel Prizes for for AI, if you guys remember. One of them for Demis Hassabis and AlphaFold team, and the other one for Jeff Hinton, and Nobel Prizes for physics, if I remember them correctly. Yeah, John Hopfield and Geoffrey Hinton got a physics Nobel Prize and for the work for AI, and Demis Hassabis, John Jumper, and David Baker got a Nobel Prize in chemistry for AlphaFold. And in open source, let's see what we got that's big. Llama file came with chat interface. That's not like super huge. That is pretty much it here. Meta announced Movie Gen. By the way, we didn't get Movie Gen yet. I guess remember the Meta has like a video generation that they promised to give us in open source, and it looks super dope. And now we have like Veo and all of these, but the open source ones, Meta is about to play there as well with Movie Gen.
And there was a Chimera model, remember the multimodal one that can generate images and input images, and they took out that part. Do you remember these?
Yep.
Oh yeah, Meta has held back a lot, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see what else do we have in October. Well, yeah, let's see. Open source, Nemotron was released. That's not super interesting. Ministral, Entropics, the Shrek sampler started, like people to start talking about Entropics. OpenAI completion API voice, and that's pretty much it.
Was search for ChatGPT in that month?
Yes, I think Search ChatGPT was starting to release. Like it was released a little bit before, and then it started to release. And 3.5 Sonnet was updated again. Let me see if I have the TLDR here.
Yeah, that was 10/22.
Yeah.
And 22 October.
Yep. So 3.5 or the 3.6 Sonnet, let's say. New Transformers JS version as well. DeepSeek gave us another model, Janus, the small one. And then let's see what else. Yeah, new Claude 5 Sonnet 3.5 and Haiku. We didn't get Opus. We were waiting for Opus. We didn't get like a new Opus as well. Anthropic also released computer use. That was big as well. That felt like it's it's like a very interesting big one. Because then it controls the computer. Cohere released a new embedding model. And XAI finally released an API platform. So this is the first like time that you can like actually use API. And Meta finally gave like the promised like iOS Genmoji and visually intelligent ChatGPT in October. So ChatGPT integration in beta, they recently released it. So far, very, very disappointing. Not many people get excited about this at all.
Something exciting was a Bolt New, which was in that month as well, where you were able to run your local Devin-like thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Bolt launched and then scaled super quickly. Bolt.new, and we had the chat with Eric from Bolt shortly afterwards. I think a month afterwards as well. Stable Diffusion was released. That was underwhelming. Looks like the last Stable Diffusion from the actual Stable Diffusion crew. Stable Diffusion 3.5. And then Halloween happened. Reminder that I really had fun on Halloween. I think this was the first video ThursdAI that we did for Halloween. I showed the Halloween toy that I built, but also Microsoft released some OmniParser stuff. OpenAI released a new benchmark called Simple QA. Let's see. ChatGPT got search. That was at the end of. I think it was the end of October, right? I think that was October, right? When's Halloween? Yes. And Bolt New was announced as well. Yeah, Wolfram, you're right. Let's see what else. Grok Vision, and then that was pretty much it with search. November. What do we have in November?
1.
Yes. We finally got a 1. Wait, I'm skipping the stuff. 01 was where's my recap? Yeah. Okay. So we got small LM2 and we got Meta released mobile LM. We got like a bunch of small ones. Tencent released Hunyuan Large, which is a huge MOE as well. I didn't see anything about this later. OpenAI released 01 full and pulls it back. It was really funny. And then Perplexity got valued at $9 billion. That was in November. That was very funny. Fish Agent, Fish Voice was released as well, which is a very good like local TTS as well. What else do we have? In open source, Quencoder got released. 2.532B was very good. I think that shot to the top of the charts, and like we back then said Sonnet at home, Nistan, if you remember, for Quencoder 2.5. And
I mean, it still is for me, but yeah.
it still is, yeah, absolutely. And then I think in November we started the absolute run with Gemini and OpenAI, and Gemini and OpenAI taking over LLM #1 arena rankings. I think this was like the start of Gemini releases a new checkmark, and then OpenAI releases something that they test in the LLM arena. Like at that point, we started like this like crazy race towards who is hitting a thing. Back in November, we also got this whole Reuters reporting AI is hitting a wall. And that was like a whole day and a half of people thinking that AI is hitting a wall before all of the companies started releasing like an insane like barrage of releases.
That was the AI winter, and we have the global warming, so it was short.
It was, yes, nice. It was AI winter exactly for 3 days or something, right? Because then OpenAI and Gemini just started absolutely fighting for who's taking over the arena. Mistral and Pixtral Large was released also in November. Sage Attention got released as well, and AI2 released Tulu and open source, fully open source Tulu with new training mechanism. DeepSeek released R1, which is a reasoning model that we talked about multiple times. And then what else? Yeah, that's it. Like, basically, like the competition between OpenAI and Gemini started like significantly back in November. Suno released V4, which was like very good. And somebody leaked Sora API, and we started to see like how Sora is going to look. We're still in November. In Thanksgiving, we talked about what else we talked about? Oh, H from H company beat computer use. I haven't still seen H, by the way. What else in November? I think that's pretty much it, right? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, Anthropic released MCP. I think that was a very interesting one that we're still going to see. It was a protocol, and I've seen folks interact with MCP since then. So this was a model context protocol where people actually use ways to let Anthropic's like macOS app to control other things. That was interesting. And then Allen AI released Olmo 2, which is like a fully open source one. And then we got
Mr. Large.
And Mr. Large.
Yeah, I think that didn't get as much prominence when we went through the year. But the Mistral models, they were really big, and especially in Europe, where we were limited with some of the other stuff. So Mistral is still one of the most important model companies over here, especially if you need it in German, for example. So their models are still very relevant over here.
Yeah,
when you need something locally.
And it feels like December was the hottest month of them all. So we're just going to do a recap of December. I will start with this week's buzz because Weave is now in GA, general availability. But besides this, we got distro and demo from News Research. So decentralized training, both from News Research and Prime Intellect, so Intellect 1. So in the open source, we got decentralized training, both in the same week finishing. Google also open source Polygemma. Amazon released their foundational models, Nova. Google announced Genie 2, which was super cool, creating like playable worlds. And then OpenAI started with their 12 days, which was crazy. And then we got the new competitor for video in the open source called HY Video, which is like all kinds of crazy, doing all kinds of crazy things. Then we got just like completely crazy run of 12 days of OpenAI, including like advanced voice mode. Llama 3.3 was released. Apple iOS 18.2 was finally released to everyone, including Image Playground and Genmoji and ChatGPT integration. Google released Gemini 2.0 Flash, which became like the top of LLM charts, and this was only the Flash thing, and announced Project Mariner. And then XAI released a new image generation thing called Aurora. Devin was launched as well, and just like a bunch of stuff one after another. Then Google also released Gemini 2 thinking model, and then OpenAI kept releasing like phone numbers, and O1 full after preview. 5.4 was supposedly released as well. Just a barrage of news in December, just like a flush of news. And I think we talked about and I think it ends in today's announcement with O3. So
there was still one thing very important for local video models. 10 cents, Huanyan,
Yunyan,
if I
yeah.
pronounce it correctly. Yunyan video, because that is, as far as I know, it's uncensored, it runs locally, and we have nothing that compares to that. And I think we will see much more of this as it gets more used and shown locally.
Yep, absolutely. So I think this is the recap that we did for the whole last year. I think absolutely crazy year. And we'll have to break the show in two. But folks who are still with us, we did some predictions last year. Nistan, I think you ran through the predictions, you looked at them. Let's do a short round of predictions, folks. I think that this is let's look at the prediction that we did and see if we hit them or not. Wolfram, you weren't with us the last year. I think Nistan, you were here. Or DJ, I don't remember if you were here. But I think I wanna review if we hit any predictions. Listen, I think we were pretty bad at them last year.
One sec, yeah.
Yeah. So we looked at like we expected 1 gigabyte models with mixed trial performance. I don't know if we actually got them. We expected the year of multimodality. I think this was like a very generic prediction, and we did get this. So yeah, definitely everything is multimodality now. If you guys remember a year ago, like it wasn't a year, like not all models were multimodal. Now all of the models are multimodal. We expected,
and it's starting locally.
Yep.
So it's just getting started locally.
And then I think we said local agents as well running on everything, and with code interpreter capabilities. I don't think we're quite there yet as well. Somebody predicted end of transformer dominance. LDJ, that we didn't get this, and it looks like we're far away from this, and we're getting like farther and farther away.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm more transformer pilled than I was a year ago.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I was very excited about like every like Jamba release and like etc. And now I'm like, okay, Transformer seems to be doing a good job.
Those are also, they just look like Transformer. Like they're still the layers that.
Yeah, they're hybrid.
Like, overall, it's not all that different. I mean, yeah, sure, you could. They're like hybrids, but like you just took a part of the Transformer and changed it, but it still looks like a Transformer.
I don't know.
We did get some. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
Sorry, there's one prediction that somebody posted. I don't know who this was, but this is literally, I'm reading quote. The prediction was RL language models. Reinforcement learning will be integrated with language models in viable ways, leading to development of proto-agents that can learn on the fly. This was a prediction from a year ago. I need to look up who made this because this is very prescient to the reasoning models that we had. So I actually need to go and look up who said this. It's very interesting that like this was it because O1s and like all of those are RL. So at least one prediction for ThursdAI came out in a very, very good way. Yeah.
I mean, the 3B model, if you look at Quant's GPQA score, that's pretty that's like Mixtral. Yeah. If anything is like a little bit better. We didn't get 1B. And if you quantize that to 1.5 gigs, I think we kind of got surprisingly close with that. Again, multimodality is everywhere. We didn't get local model agents. I mean, you could argue that Cog VLM is that. It's just the newer one, and the newer one might actually be that good, but they're not widespread other than cloud's computer use. The grammar's everywhere now, at least on the enterprise. On the business side, that's constrained output or JSON output. That's literally everywhere. Actually, most of the enterprise Gen AI stuff is like grammar restricted.
Oh, you mean like
like constrained output, like JSON
Constrained
schemas.
output. Yeah. So structured output is everywhere. And
structured output's everywhere. Yeah.
We got that one.
Yeah. We didn't get the end of transformers. No, I think like a lot of these. Yeah, I don't know who made RL. Was it LDJ or Pharrell?
I want to look. I think I actually took down the names. Let me see. RL. Reinforcement.
It might have been Yam too.
Oh no, it was Pharrell.
Yeah, I was about to say that sounds like something Pharrell might say.
Yeah, Pharrell said this. Marriage of reinforcement learning and language models. That was Pharrell's prediction. All right,
and that's
folks.
what his new company is doing too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That was great. Let's look at big companies' predictions. I said, and this was me, I remember, Mistral to become a major player. And I literally said, potentially surpassing Anthropic. And wow, did I miss on this one. Wow, did I miss on this one. This was a big miss on my part.
But they did become big, not as big as Anthropic, of course, not replacing them, but I think they are very big and relevant today.
I agree, although I personally think that if anything, after they turned into a products company, Mistral's like excitement got like lower, at least from where I sit, and like I judge by the vibes. Like the excitement about Mistral got lowered from like at least with the releases of everything else, because Google stepped in. There's like a bunch of other like big players stepped in, but
That's true.
I definitely saw them on like a meteoric rise, and that felt like lower. Somebody predicted Apple's AI device, and that did not. No devices from AI from Apple.
Man, it's pretty sad. We should hold a vigil for the day that the VCs just like killed Mistral with their meetings, because like I'm pretty sure when they were shipping the good models, they were doing a lot less meetings. At least that's my that's my guess. But yeah.
One prediction from Shuminik, a friend of ours, that said extremely expensive but high performance models that cost more per response. That was fairly prescient as well.
Yeah, he got that spot on. $1 per response. Oh yeah.
Yeah, dollar per response.
Long context, it goes more.
That was great. That was a great prediction. We didn't have this back then. Like we didn't have any reasoning, so there was no point on like spending a lot of money. Now for O1 and O1 Pro, if that comes in API, you can spend like you can spend a lot. You can spend like on one context window. Yeah. Somebody said revolutionary product, a new revolutionary hardware product, embedding AI into our lives will be launched, similar in impact to the iPhone. Nothing like this, even close.
I mean, they tried, right?
But like all of the hardware devices besides Meta Ray-Bans this year, and the Ray-Bans I think came last year, just failed.
Wait, really? You'd say Meta Ray-Ban glasses failed?
No, besides Meta Ray-Bans, and Meta Ray-Bans came out last year. Yeah, they didn't come out this year.
Look, the Snapchat Vision ones are pretty good, but it's only a dev kit and it lasts an hour. Like I think people also tried with the Rabbit and stuff. There were a few attempts. I don't know. I don't think we were entirely off on this.
I think Rabbit and Humane Pin were just kind of like, they're almost like the do you guys remember like the Apple Palm, I think it was called? It was like a few years before the iPhone.
Yep.
And it was like this kind of smartphone, something trying to be like what we would currently call a smartphone, but it was like way too early for its time, really. The software wasn't really there, the hardware wasn't really polished. And I think that's what we might kind of look back on Humane AI Pin and Rabbit R1 as, because I think the concept is actually something fruitful there. I think they just tried to do things way too early. They tried to do it with models that are not intelligent enough to do the capabilities they wanted. You had to wait these crazy long wait times, and then it's like gets things horribly wrong. But I think eventually those are kind of similar form factors to what we desire.
I think we already have devices, or one device already, so there's not much need for more devices that you have to carry around. I think the idea is right, but it's not going to replace the smartphone. So we need a new category that is more useful than that. So when we get to predictions, I would say something about what I expect.
Alrighty. Okay. Let's get to predictions soon, because I think we're about to like tap out on the predictions that we did last year. That's pretty much it for the predictions that we did last year. I think I'm gonna pause here for predictions that we did last year. And Jenna, we've been at it for we're coming up on 3 hours. This is a long one, so I'm gonna probably split this once we post it. But I do want to invite folks from this from the folks who are still listening to us to come up to the stage and give us predictions. I will then transcribe them, and then I will see who spoke and who it was. So if you want to come up, Lentos, I see you. I'm going to add you as well. I see Quinn. I see you. Maziar, I see you as well. I see Josh. All of you are welcome. Testing Catalog, Junaid, Safir, like Lincoln. I invite you all to come up. Folks who are like usually join ThursdAI, and let's do a round of predictions for next year. I will say that the way we usually do predictions is kind of like this. Let's do them around the same kind of categories that we usually do on ThursdAI. Let's start with open source, and then we'll do like big companies and LLMs, and then maybe like vision and audio, and then other. Let's categorize them like this, because I really want to do. Let's see if we can try to predict something like I don't know, the next year, because it's becoming insane. Let me add a few folks, invitation to speak. Folks who are usually here, you're welcome to come up, and then I'm going to send you some invites as well. Just if you haven't been here before, just state your name before this, and then yeah, let's do some predictions, folks.
You should release the ones we made last year and what came out or not, just for us to keep track.
Yeah, absolutely. I will release this as a separate episode. We'll walk through the predictions, and then yeah. So, all right, folks, let's do like 20 minutes of rounds. And folks, if you don't want to come up, just give us predictions in the comments. What do you think we're looking at for the next year? Who wants to go first? Wolfram, you had one. Lentos, go ahead. Welcome, Lentos.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm pretty big on like agents and things like this. I think we're gonna have like the year of agents. Like we already started to see it. Some fun ones. I think we're gonna see some AI agents exploit open source software. We're gonna see them attacking each other and sort of taking advantage of vulnerabilities within AI agents. So you'll see like an open source agent get taken down by another agent. I think this is gonna be like happening at least at some stage in the next year, I think, yeah. If not, somebody's already done it, and yeah.
So, Lentos, your prediction is we're going to see an adversarial agent attack executed successfully by end of 25.
Yeah.
By one agent towards another agent. Interesting.
Probably when one gets out the bag, then everybody's going to start doing it. Like, we're going to see the priming of AI agents. I mean, even in the group chats, there are people already doing agents like to the max. So,
alrighty, okay, yeah, definitely, agent is something that people are predicting for next year as well. Wolfram.
Yeah, that is what is on my list at the first point. Agents, and not just chatbots, but actual agents. So computer use, something like that. And like Lentos said, I expect security suits to become available for agents. They're like guardrails, but also checking the input and making sure it's sanitized and stuff like that. So that is my first prediction. The second one is AI classes as a new device class and form factor that will augment first and possibly even replace long-term smartphones, because it's just such a perfect class. You see what you see, the AI sees what you see, and it can talk to you directly at your ear and stuff like that. And we definitely need speech recognition where it recognizes the speaker. I noticed over Christmas when I was talking to my family and showing off the latest AI stuff, there was so much talk and noise, it just didn't get my voice, and that needs to be solved as well. And the final prediction is Sonnet at home, possibly from China, which I would expect the way things are going. And I mean, really being able to run a Sonnet level model on your own home computer. That would be, next year.
We're nearly there. All right, Nista, I want to hear from you. Wild predictions. Give me your wildest ones.
I think we're going to see a soda model that's either open source or from China. I like if they're on track. It's gonna. If you just look at the rate of improvement, it's probably gonna happen. I think a lot of like the traditional business models of like companies like that like sell compute and used to sell servers, they're being turned upside down very quickly because of the massive, much more powerful buildup in GPU compute. So we're going to see challengers to anywhere from we're going to see new operating systems just challenge the Mac OS and Windows. We're going to see new phone devices. We're also going to see new chips that actually perform and are not just BS. I think accelerators are going to start to become practical. So like actual LLM accelerators, not like VC pitch deck LLM accelerators, like actual devices shipped. Probably like maybe from TensorTorrent, Talas. There might be a few other surprises, like just like Samba Nova came out. And as far as the models themselves go, I think the same techniques that work on the O3 and stuff are just going to work pretty well for like tiny 3B models. Like I don't see why not. And yeah, I do agree. We'll finally see like some kind of automation emerging that looks like agentic behavior. But again, as everyone here knows, I don't think like I'm not a fan of agents myself. But I think like, they might start to happen, but it's just like an order of magnitude more complexity above that needs to happen for that. So yeah, my predictions are open source or Chinese model better than any other company because like they don't waste time talking to and signing NDAs all day. They just ship, and we're going to see accelerator devices actually become practical. And yeah, let's say those are my two main ones.
Nice. All right, LJ, I want to go next.
Sure. So obviously agents, just like everybody else is saying, I think that'll be big. But I guess to be more specific,
yeah, be specific so we can like disprove it or say if it's
yeah,
true.
Yeah. I think by the end of 2025, I think most of us will agree, or in most average people, I think will also agree that the benefit and improvement to people's like the average person's life from AI and like the capability from the average person's perspective, not some like STEM or mathematician's perspective. I think from those people's perspective, it'll be a bigger jump from the beginning of 2025 to the end of 2025 compared to the beginning and end of 2024. I think it's significantly so.
Wait, say this again clearly. You're saying people.
So I think if you were to poll the average people,
yeah,
I think if you were to poll the average people, not mathematicians or those types of people, I think that they'll say there's more advancement happening from the beginning to the end of 2025 compared to what we saw from the beginning to the end of 2024.
Yeah, I agree on that as well. If I can add to that, I think we'll see people actually start using voice interfaces quite a bit more once they become a bit more like data property respectful and trustworthy. Because right now people just don't trust them. I think. Overall, yeah.
Here, I'll mention some benchmark specific numbers that I think will be hit too. I think in here, actually, I'll just take 2 seconds to pull some benchmarks to remind myself. Okay, I think in Work Arena Plus and Gaia and Simple Bench, I think all of those will probably have over 60% scores achieved. And right now, the average human score is like around 80% or higher in all of those, and the current state of the art score is like less than 40% for all of those. So yeah, and those are all like agent-specific benchmarks, and I think they're pretty important for indicating how close we are to actually having something that can usefully do computer work and knowledge work, and I think that'll be a big thing. And also, people will start to probably actually be concerned about white-collar work being taken by the end of 2025.
I see. Okay, that's a prediction. I see a few more folks here that came up. So welcome Quindla, welcome Zafrir. Who wants Zafrir? I think you were next, and then Lantos. I think you have one more. Zafrir, welcome. What's your predictions for next year, man?
So I think it's gonna be a very exciting year for open source. I want to make a bold prediction where open source is going to take over inference time compute scaling. So the ways that we currently know and the new ways to spend more money to get better responses. I think the creativity there belongs to the open source community, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. And in the rest of the world, I expect this year to have huge leaps in real-time multimodal experiences, where today we know of the basics, like a little bit of voice, a little bit of screen sharing responsiveness. I expect we will see those explode in unimaginable ways, where you see a photo evolve in front of you while you speak, a video with content, not just like we are used to have today, videos that appear like videos, like GPT-2 level appeared like English. I think this year we're going to start seeing video models that create actual content. Think YouTube tutorials, things that have whiteboards with text on them, with graphs, and all of those will come together in real time to be an extension of our thought. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, so I was waiting for some like content and multimodality prediction as well. All right, Quinn, welcome.
Hey, yeah, I definitely agree about voice interfaces and real-time multimodal. I think there's a critical mass of people who've seen the possibilities there, who are working on it. The big labs are now actively really interested in evolution there, so it feels like this year is going to be set up for that. Specifically, back to the question about transformer architecture, open question about what what comes next, if anything. I predict there's going to be at least one model that really surprises us in the speech-to-speech space that is not pure transformers. That's a hybrid or a next-generation architecture.
How comparable to what? Comparable to like a state-of-the-art model?
Yeah, I think, well, at least it'll point the way towards what the next real-time speech-to-speech can be. Because there's a bunch of limitations now of even the best speech-to-speech models that are good enough to use for real-world stuff, like GPT-4o and the really impressive new Gemini. They're definitely speech-to-speech, but they have context length.
Oh, speaking of real-time audio, it looks like we're losing you.
Yep.
My prediction for next year, Twitter Spaces will remain the same low-quality WebRTC stuff. Quinn, are you back with us? Nope. All right, Quinn.
I'm back with
No,
you.
no,
you're
no
back, you're
AGI
Sorry.
next year.
Yeah.
I'll make that prediction.
No AGI solving
I'll probably be
real-time voice.
wrong.
Yeah, Quinn, back with you.
I got one more.
Yeah.
Which is that connection is going to stop. Like,
Which one's gonna stop? Sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, I think he's making a prediction that his connection is going to stop.
Yeah. All righty. Awesome. Quinn, thank you. Thank you. All right, folks. LDJ, you have any other things to add?
Yeah. Here, just something that came up into my mind that I don't think much people mentioned, robotics. I think robotics are definitely going to be a bigger deal in 2025. And I think especially on the AI side of having, I think at least one large model, let's say like original GPT-4 scales of compute or larger, will be trained in like a general way while also incorporating some sort of robotics modality into it. And I think by the end of 2025, the concept of kind of general robotics models that could even use like multiple different types of robotic hardware and like generalize a lot through things like that, I think that will be kind of more commonplace and much more common sense in hindsight by the end of the year.
Give us one way to kind of like make sure that this prediction came true or didn't come through.
Sure. So at least to one open source model or closed source model that like we can agree is trained on at least as much compute or similar to original GPT-4, while also incorporating like something specified as like a robotics modality to actually like control robotics motors and take in visual feed of a robot as input and be able to do things like, let's say, fold laundry.
Oh, I see. Oh yeah, that's dope. Yeah, I've seen like multiple virtual kind of gym type things happening and I'm very excited about this. Like definitely world simulators and their adjacent things are getting heat up, like Google's Genie and Dr. Feifei's and Sora is kind of a word simulator. Yeah, definitely like robotics in sim and then real world transfer and training on vision is going to be very interesting next year. And kind of like the marriage of agentic and robotic agentic is kind of very interesting next year. Maybe a little bit premature if I'm to start like predicting. Maybe a little bit premature for next year, but at least the glimpses of it we'll start to see next year, because like there's like at least 4 robotics companies are starting to talk to us about products, potential products, upcoming products. All right. Let me see if I have any predictions necessarily. I screwed up so badly on previous ones, and honestly, with the speed we're moving, it's really, really hard. I'll throw some crazy ones out there. I think that one prediction I'll make is we're going to see one significant outburst of anti-AI sentiment in some form of not online but like physical protest. Unfortunately, I have a feeling, and maybe hoping that I'm wrong here in this prediction, but I'm thinking that we'll see some form of anti-AI sentiment turning into something real in the physical world, either a protest or an act of some sort, or a or a voting block deciding on a law in some legislative place, something like this, where something leaves the digital world and ends up in the physical world with like bans AI. I don't know, in some legislative place or another, somebody will ban Meta Ray-Bans wearing in public or some shit like this, right? Or we're it's not quite the same thing as what Europe has with like legislation, regulation with like stuff like AI. I'm speaking, let me focus on US, but I'm getting like a bunch of like anti-AI sentiment already. I think that some folks will go against. This is going to be very interesting to see how this evolves. Obviously, we're against this. We're going to stand as much against this as possible. Given that test time compute is kind of not necessarily new, but like this year we saw it like blow up, I think that there is at least one more, not necessarily scaling law explosion, but I think there's at least one weird trick where we all collectively will unlock, and once the domino falls in one company, everybody else will start replicating this, kind of like the reasoning thing, where now it's replicatable with RL, with like open source, and then Google thinking, etc. I think we're due to at least one more thing like this, where one piece of the puzzle somewhere in the long chain of training models is going to get replaced. I don't know if it's like an optimizer replacement, because we already have like a replacement for optimizer. It's not being used necessarily. I think that we're very close to something like this. It could be a context window unlock. I know, for example, we're due to see what happens with like Magic with their 10 million context window and like tens of millions of context window tokens or something. So that's about to come to light. So that's not necessarily a prediction. We're just waiting for that. But I think that, listen, go ahead.
I agree. If I want to take a guess as what that will be,
yeah,
I think what's likely to happen is we're going to see much more active dynamic models where the weights of the model and the routing happens on the fly per task, and even training happens on the fly per task. I think we might start seeing not just inference on compute, but even something like train on compute. I think it's likely.
Yeah. So that's definitely a prediction. One prediction that I have for next year is that prices of intelligence is going to go up, not down. So the whole thing with this year was we saw, intelligence trending towards zero, or what do we call this? Basically intelligence trending towards zero.
Too cheap to meter.
Yeah, too cheap to meter. Yeah, thank you. We did see this. It continues to happen. but we did see price rises this year, and we continue to see them. And I think this will continue. I think not only from the perspective of like AI is everywhere now and people need to make money in companies, but also because these models get bigger and bigger and bigger. They just like they don't make they don't make sense to run in this limited price. So I think that we're going to see price raises next year. Compared to this year where we saw like significantly price reductions, maybe with the exception of Google, who can continue to offer very cheap to necessarily essentially free compute to win the race as well. I predict that X and Grok is going to be a very big deal next year. We don't like we mentioned Grok because we're on X, etc. If you ask like other people, they know about Elon Musk. Maybe they know about his company. Like I don't know many people who use Grok as their LLM of choice besides the people who use X. I predict that Grok is going to be a standalone, very big deal next year, just because of the size of what they have and what they're about to launch. I think that like people have not yet updated what it means to have 200,000 H200s under your belt and a team that doesn't go to sleep basically and works over through holidays. I think that like we're about to see what that means in the realm of like AI, and we haven't yet updated to that. So that's my prediction. Grok 3 is going to be a significant player within the companies. I already bet on a significant player from Mistral, and yeah, I was wrong. So I'm hoping that I'm gonna be right on the next one. One more prediction: we're gonna see another wave of AI devices. They are also gonna miss the mark. Hardware is hard, as we saw this year. Software improvements like faster real-time voices and video and cheaper processing, all of those restrictions are devices like Rabbit and devices like Humane Pin, all of the main things for which devices were like killed by MKBHD, and for which devices were like basically said, oh, this is horrible because it was slow, it was like expensive, it was heating up, etc. Most of them are not the main reason why people don't need this. The whole assistant on me, etc., is not as useful as maybe people think, and I think the next wave of devices needs to be completely looking different. And with the exception of Meta, maybe like hardware is hard. I predict that we'll see a crop of devices try to hit AI devices and fail. So people will try them, they're going to be exciting for a second, and they'll fail. That's my prediction for next year as well. Not many positive predictions. Let me see if there's a positive one. I think open source, I agree with all of you. Open source will continue, not only from China. I think that Llama 4 is going to be a very big deal. And I think that Llama 4 is going to be significant counterweight to the Chinese open source. And I don't know anything, but I'm really hoping that Meta is not sitting around and not doing reasoning. So I'm really predicting a reasoning model from Meta next year, and reasoning in a very big sense, where like we're gonna get a huge reasoning model, reasoning llamas. I'm really hoping reasoning llamas, and I think I posted about this somewhere. I think all of the Cerebras, Grok, Samba Nova, all of those like super quick chips compared to NVIDIA GPUs that are 1,000 tokens per second for llamas, they're going to be significantly boosted by inference time compute. I think their importance is going to grow because inference time compute requires like longer thinking. And while we didn't have a lot to do with the 2,000 tokens per second, because it's like even 500 tokens per second is faster than we can read for reasoning, for inference time compute, when you get 2,000 tokens per second, you just get much better, faster answers. And so I think that those super quick chips are going to be significantly better, like more important players once the open source reasoning are going to come. So that's my prediction. The way to predict this, Cerebras is going to go public and it's going to be a massive IPO. That's my prediction for next year. Public Cerebras, massive IPO. I'm hoping that this is a good prediction. That's it. I think this is it, folks. I think this is a good round of predictions. We've been at this for 3 hours. Maybe it's time to close the last ThursdAI for this year. It's been awesome. Thank you, everybody who joined. Thank you, everybody who did predictions. Thank you in the comments as well. Lentos, I think we're done. I'm sorry. I think after three hours, I'm going to go and have to edit this as well. But I really appreciate all of your time here. Thank you, everybody, for joining ThursdAI for long and staying with us for as long. Thank you, everybody who joined throughout this year. It's been an incredible pleasure of mine to keep hosting ThursdAI. 49 episodes this year, almost 52, 49 episodes this year of ThursdAI. It's been a pleasure of mine to co-host this with co-hosts Wolfram, Niston, LDJ, Yam, Tsafrir, and a bunch of others. Lentos keep joining. Quinn was here. A bunch of other folks who joined throughout this year and became like part of this of the ThursdAI community. A bunch of you in the comments. I specifically want to shout out a very important member of the community, President Lincoln, with the little Groot with the Santa hat. For just give him a follow, folks. Give Lincoln a follow. He's doing incredible way of keeping me up to date. So keeping you up to date, and he's keeping me up to date. And just a bunch of incredible folks in the community. I really appreciate your time here on ThursdAI. If you missed any part of the show, as always, we're on everywhere you get your podcast. Just look for ThursdAI. We have a very high 5-star rating. We would love to continue this. So if any part of the show resonated with you, the best way to give back, to contribute, to support us is to give us that 5-star review and share it with your friends. Otherwise, I wish you a very happy new year. Our predictions hopefully will come true for the next year. Thank you, everyone. This has been ThursdAI for the last year. Bye-bye, everyone. And
thank you, Alex, for doing all of this, by the way. You are dedicated and doing it every week on time and everything. So I think I'm not speaking just for myself, but for the whole community here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wolfram. Thank you for joining, and thank you everyone for joining as well. My pleasure, honestly, my pleasure. And obviously, thanks for Weights and Biases and We for letting me do this from week to week. Thank you, folks, everyone. And we'll see you here next year. I don't get to say this often, but we'll see you here next year. Bye-bye, everyone. Happy New Year.